Shabbat Shalom, family. Shabbat Shalom. Hope everybody's doing well. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started and open up in prayer if all hearts and minds are clear. Baruch atah yahuah. Blessed be your name, Almighty Yah. Total Rabbi Yah for this beloved Shabbat, Deal Yahuwah. Father, we just thank you for keeping us throughout these 7 days, Almighty Elohim, staying away the hand of death from our lives, allowing us to come before you on this beloved day to give you all esteem and honor. For truly you are worthy of all praise, O Yahuwah, for there is none like you, Almighty Elohim. For you are truly the great architect of the universe, the omnipotent, omnipresent, the covenant making, covenant keeping Elohim of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And we honor you, O Yahuwah, and honor your beloved Son, Yahushua Mashiach, our King and High Priest, and mediator of the covenant, and the Ruach HaKodesh that leads us and guides us in all truth. And Father, we just humble ourselves in your presence, asking that you will please forgive us for any iniquities, any sins, and any transgressions that we've committed against you, Father Yah, be it consciously or unconsciously. We just ask you continue to purify our hearts, O Yahuwah, continue to purge us from anything contrary to your nature and your spirit, O Yahuwah, and that our hearts and our minds will be renewed in you, Almighty Elohim, that the same mind of Mashiach may be also in us, Father Yah, and that we will continually seek your face and be diligently in guarding your word above all things, O Yahuwah. And Father, we just pray as we open your word today, oh Father Yah, that our hearts and our ears will be open to receive your word, O Yahuwah, on good ground in Yahusha's name, that it may bring forth fruit unto perfection, that we all might be perfect in you and lacking nothing for our destinies, O Yahuwah. And Father, we just pray for all Israel scattered throughout the four corners, striving for righteousness, O Yahuwah, that you continue to baruch them on this beloved day, continue to watch over them and keep them safe in your hands as well, Father Yah. We also pray for anyone who may need healing. Pray that you touch their bodies, that you heal them, restore them to perfect health and wellness in the mighty name of Yahushua Mashiach. And anyone who may be battling any kind of demonic strongholds or Yahuwah, that you would break the yokes and loose the chains of any of these demonic soul ties or strings or bondage or Yahuwah, and that they may walk in true liberty in Yahushua HaMashiach. And Father, we just thank you for your covering. We thank you for your deliverance and your protection, mighty Elohim. And Father, we just pray that your will be done on earth as it is in Shemayim forevermore. In Yahushua Mashiach's name. Baruch atah Yahuwah, Todah Rabbi Yah, Hallelujah, Yahuwah, Hallelujah, Amen, Amen,
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. All right, family. So we continuing here in Babylon's going over the wages of unrighteousness and the sacrifices of unjust gains. All right. So we've been talking about how the great whore of Babylon, the mother of harlots, how she has the nations drunk off of her wine, and the merchants of the earth have got rich from her, right? From being in bed with the whore and following her ways. So we've been going over these tactics that the merchants are waxing rich from, and what has all the nations drunk, right? What are these ways? And so we've been going over these gains of oppression and different things that many follow today that may be aware or unaware that are against Elohim, and people are profiting from a wicked system that the whore has pushed and propagated throughout the earth. So we're just continuing in here. We're in part three. I'm just gonna do a little bit of recap and get started. All right. So we're gonna open up here about the judgment for the gains of oppression. Almost chapter 9. I'm gonna start at verse 8 through 10.
And it reads, Behold, the eyes of yahuah Elohim are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the face of the earth, saying that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, saith Yahuwah. Below I will command, and I will shift the house of Israel among all nations, like as the corn is shifted in a sheaf, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword which say, the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us.
All right, so we've been going over this, Babylon, the city of merchants, right? The merchant city. And this is the sinful kingdom who Yahuwah is against, and he has a controversy against her and the nations who are in bed with her, right? And we know that Israel is also scattered amongst the nations, and she is also partaking with her. All right. So this is a warning of those partaking of the sins of Babylon and letting them know that the sinners of his people who are following her fornication, her ways, are going to die by the sword. And they say that this evil won't overtake us, meaning that the judgment that people are saying is going to happen to this, sinful kingdom, they think it's not going to touch them, right? That they're going to be good, not understanding that they are, filled with her iniquity and sins as well by partaking and being amongst them knowingly or unknowingly. All right. But let's look at Yeshayahu, Isaiah 33, verse 14.
The sinners in Zion are afraid, fearfulness has surprised the hypocrites. Who among us shall dwell with the devouring fire? Who among us shall dwell for everlasting burnings? He that walketh righteously and speaketh uprightly, he that despiseth the gain of oppressions, that shaketh his hand from holding of bribes, that stoppeth his ears from hearing of blood, and shutteth his eyes from seeing evil.
All right. So the sinners in Zion are afraid, right? Those who have come out of the whore, right? That have come out of Babylon and forsaken her ways, they're not in fear, but the sinners in Zion are fearful, right? And they're surprised by the hypocrites to find out that they are, of the whore. Okay. So who among us is going to survive the devouring fire, right? Who's going to come out that's been refined through the fire of affliction to become as gold, or shall they be destroyed? And he's letting you know the only ones that's going to come out that will not be destroyed because they did come out and they went through, the purging process are those who walk uprightly. Okay, who walk righteously, speak of righteously, and they despise the gains of oppression that the whore Babylon is selling the people. Okay, they do not shake their hands in any agreements to hold any bribes, right? They stop with their ears from hearing of blood. Now, when we talk about hearing of blood, we talked about that, yahuah considers someone a murderer if you defraud your neighbor from his hire, meaning by putting off his daily wage that he worked for and paying him later instead of that day, how he considers you a bloodshedder, right? Or if you use usury, right? You loan to your brother on interest or have him borrow from you on interest and so forth. This is also considered a bloodshedder. Okay. And these are abominations in Yahuwah's eyes of taking these different loans and doing these different things. So he's saying those who stop his ears from hearing of such things, meaning they're not entertaining those type of agreements, okay? And they shut up their eyes from seeing evil, meaning that they won't allow anyone or anything concerning these type of evil matters be done in front of them without them speaking up, exposing these things, right? They don't turn a blind eye to it in a sense of act like it's not there in front of them, all right? They expose the darkness by shedding the light of the word of Elohim in these things, and they don't stand while their brothers or their sisters are being taken advantage of or lured into these type of death pledges and agreements of debt and all these different things that Yahuwah is against and the whore of Babylon is promoting. Jeremiah 25 verse 31.
And no shall come even to the ends of the earth, for Yahuwah have controversy with the nations. He
Mm-mm.
will plead with all flesh. He will give them that are wicked to the sword, saith Yahuwah. And the peaceable inhabitations are cut down because of the fierce anger of Yahuwah. He hath forsaken his covert as a lion, for their land is desolate because of the fierceness of the oppressor, and because of his fierce anger.
Okay, so there's a controversy with Yahuwah against the nations, right, who are drunk off the wine of Babylon because they have this gains of oppression that they follow, right? This fierce oppressors who keep the people in bondage and in debt and dealing unrighteously in their affairs and their business to keep this system or this wicked system going. So he has a controversy. Well, let's see who else is in bed with the whore promoting the gains of oppression. Hosea 12, verse 2.
Yahuwah have also a controversy with Yahudah,
Mm.
will punish Jacob according to his ways, according to his doings, will he recompense him?
There it is. So Yahuwah also has a controversy with Judah, and he's going to punish Jacob according to his ways and according to his doings. There will be a recompense. So just as much as he's going to recompense Babylon, he's also recompensing Judah for partaking of the ways of the whore as well. Right? Hosea chapter 12, verse 7. Let's see why.
He is a merchant. The balance of deceit are in his hand. He loveth to oppress.
Okay,
For
so
all
he
nations,
so he's adopted this oppressive system, right? This oppressive ways of gaining by being a merchant, a businessman, the way Babylon is taught to get rich and successful. This is what all the merchants are drunk off, and they have a balance of deceit, right? These are gains through deception, following a corrupt, wicked system. So he loveth to oppress because he gets money by oppressing others. Revelations 18, verse 3.
all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies.
Okay, so the kings, right, the elites of the world are in bed with the whore, and all the merchants are all flocking to Babylon to get rich and wealthy off of their merchandise that they're selling, right? Through this import and export and all these different things. Now, Isaiah 28, verse 1, who else is drunk?
Woe to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose esteemed beauty is in fading flowers, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine.
All right. So the controversy is not just with all the nations that are drunk and getting rich, but also with Judah, right? Because he thinks he's a merchant, a businessman, and also with Ephraim. He's also drunk and have been overcome with the wine of Babylon. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 9.
Woe to him that covenanteth an evil covenant to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil.
Hmm.
Thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul.
So America, the great whore of Babylon, covetous, right? She's a covetous house. She goes and covetous other people's resources, their properties, their countries, right? And rape them for their resources by destroying also their economies, bringing their economy to a very low state while they come in and oppress and make gains, right? Through taking their resources and bringing them back to Babylon to make exceeding amount of profit, right? Through the gains of oppressing a whole nother people and other nations. And it says that thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, because they go to many nations, bombing them, destroying them, making up reasons, right, to go and oppress. And they set up bases there and never leave because they are getting gains from these different places. So they've sinned against Yahuwah, and their stench is reaching his nostrils where he has no choice but to respond now. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 11.
For the stone shall cry out of the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establish a city by iniquity.
There it is. So this city was established by lawlessness, iniquity, and they built their town by blood by destroying and colonizing and raping and murdering the people. All right. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 13.
Behold, it is not of Yahuwah of hosts that the people shall labor in the very fire, and the people shall worry themselves for very vanity. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the esteem of Yahuwah, as the waters cover the sea. Woe to him that giveth his neighbors drink, that putteth the bottle to him, and maketh him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness.
There it is. So these are the people who are promoting the ways of the whore, right? Yahuwah's desire is not for the people to labor in vanity, seeking covetous desires that the whore is feeding them, right? Through all their social media, throughout all their broadcasting of spells and sorceries to get the minds of the people to eat or abide or partake of what they are selling and giving the people, right? Which is all these covetous desires, forever wanting and never being satisfied. All right. So this is what's going on. And he's saying that the neighbors are causing them to drink, telling them, hey, come partake of this. Come get rich with us. Partake of loans and usury and businesses that are not of righteousness, but for your gains of oppression. So he says, woe to him that encourages his neighbor to drink this wine of the whore, right? To where you will be now exposed, just like the whore is going to be exposed, and her nakedness shall be shown. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 16.
Thou art filled with shame for esteem. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of Yahuwah's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy esteem.
There it is. All right. So again, he's going to expose the whore of Babylon. This is why we're seeing all these things coming out about the whore of Babylon and how she's into human trafficking and all these child arenas and Epstein Islands and all this different stuff. This is exposing the whore before the great destruction of her burning that shall be in 1 hour, and she will be destroyed. Right. So we have to remember that first, he has to expose her ways and then the destruction, complete destruction. All right. But Israel's also being exposed, right? She wants to be amongst Babylon and the elites. She wants a piece of the American pie, the American dream. So she's willing to sell her soul with the fornication of the whore, right? To partake of these gains of oppression. And she shall be exposed also in the media. All right. Jeremiah 51:7.
Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Yahuwah's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad.
There it is, all right. So the nations have bought into it, and Yahuwah had given the nations over to their covetous desires of the whore. But now they are guilty, right, in judgment. Now they're not going to be destroyed like the whore is being destroyed, but there is a recompense that they will get a certain judgment. But Babylon's the only one that's going to be destroyed and burned like Sodom and Gomorrah because it's from her that all the filth is being promoted to the rest of the nations. So Yahuwah is going to destroy the root cause of the issue, all right. Jeremiah 51, verse 13.
O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thy end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness.
There it is. So their end is come in the measure of their covetous, right? Their greediness, unjust and covetous gains that they have gotten and have the people drunken off of. So this is Yahuwah's judgment against her. Nahum chapter 3, verse 4.
Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations to her whoredoms, and families to her witchcraft.
So again, they're selling their merchandise, right? Their wicked inventions, their wicked propaganda to feed the souls of men. Okay, this poison. All right, even through their advertisement, their marketing, the things that they offer to you that make you question you, right? And make you even hate yourself. They put an image in front of you, tell you what is beauty is, and then you try to conform to what their image of beauty is by hating even yourself, right? To where you want to get these certain surgeries done and different things where you want to get lip implants and behind implants and breast implants and change your faces through all these different things that the whore is offering, saying you can do, right? And all this is covetousness, okay? Desiring things that are even lasciviousness, which is desiring things that are forbidden, right? Things that are against Elohim. They promote their drugs through the pharmaceutical industry and poison to the earth. All these different things that make you feel like you need something that they are offering, which you don't. Okay? All these things have you in the covetous desires of forever wanting and never being satisfied, thinking if once I get this, then I'll be happy, or once I have this, and then you never are happy, right? You're just forever wanting and never filling that void because that void doesn't get filled through vanity that the whore is offering, right? It's only through Yahuwah Elohim. So he's saying that these people or the whore is the one who has these souls of man being sold unto her by them committing fornication with the whore and buying what she is selling. Sirach 10:9.
Why is earth as ashes pride?
Mhm.
There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man, for such has one sitteth his own soul to sell, because while he liveth, he casteth away his bow.
There it is. Okay, so it's nothing more wicked than a covetous man who is forever wanting, desiring things, and never satisfied. Okay, he setteth his own soul for sale. And this is what the nations are doing. This is what Babylon is promoting. Jeremiah 22, verse 13.
Woe to him that buildeth his house upon unrighteousness,
Mhm.
and his rooms without right ruling, that useth his neighbor's service without wages, and giveth him not for his work.
So again, this is an abomination in y'all's eyes. Okay, this is makes you a shedder of blood when you defraud your neighbor of his hire, of his wages. Okay, and you build up your own house by using their labor and not paying these people for doing that. So that applies even to us Israelites who are building different homesteads and compounds, and you using the saints to do your building on your land and not paying them wages for doing this. All right, that's against Torah to have somebody working and building something and you are not paying them for their time and their labor. Okay, this is considered shedding of blood, defrauding your neighbor. Jeremiah 22, verse 17.
For thine eyes or thine heart are not but thy covetousness, and for to shed innocent blood, and for oppression, and for violence to do it.
There it is. So the only reason why they do this is because of the covetous desires, right? This is what's driving them to commit such things. Micah chapter 2, verse 1.
Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man and his heritage.
There it is. So this is again about these covetous gains, even through the mortgage system, right? Which we talked about in the previous series of this lesson, right? Going about getting loans on interest, using the bank's money to go and purchase a house that you don't own, putting yourself in debt when we're not supposed to, put ourselves in debt to any man, nor to loan or borrow on interest. It's an abomination in y'all's eyes, right? So they covet fields and they covet houses and they take them by violence, right? Through the mortgage system where you put someone in debt where now this person's heritage can be taken from them, right? Their houses and different things through if you don't pay your property taxes or and all these things, so forth, that your house is gonna be taken away from you and you will work 30 years in this mortgage, right? So all this is gains of oppression that the whore Babylon has many seduced by. Okay. But the real estate system, all these different things propagates the sins of the whore that she's being judged. And Israel wants to be a great merchant just like her and do business like her and promoting people to get drunk off of let's clean your credit up, right? Let's go get you these loans and you can qualify for this loan on interest and you can get this credit card that has this amount that you can get, and then you put yourself in debt so you can do business, buy this, buy cars or whatever the case. All this is sin in y'all's eyes, right? There's nothing wrong with you working, saving money, and purchasing something of ownership. But whenever you go and take a loan out on interest, right, you are now entering into a death pledge. And this is against Elohim. This is bringing yourself into bondage when he has delivered us, all right? When he has set us free and said we are not to put ourselves in bondage, nor put our own brothers and sisters in such bondage as well. So Luke 16, verse 9, let's see how Mashiach rebuked those who made mammon, their God through covetous desires. All right. Luke 16, verse 9.
And I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of righteousness, that when ye fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitations.
There it is. So he says you worship the God of mammon, right? And unrighteousness. When you fall by serving this false God, right? When you die, you're going to go into everlasting habitation in Sheol, which is in torment and fire, right? These are lessons here that he's letting you know. Verse 10.
He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much.
So this is how you being tested on this earth to see if you will compromise the covenant of Elohim to get rich, to serve mammon, to fulfill your covetous desires. He that is faithful in the least, meaning if Yah gives you a portion and you are faithful what he has given you, you have all the things that you need, right? He's testing you to see if you can be content with those things and be faithful to him, right? But if you've been offered the unjust gains of oppression and you took and you partook of that, then he knows you will never be faithful with the true riches of Elohim in the kingdom, right? So all this is testing ground to see what's really in your heart. Is it the kingdom of Elohim or is it your covetous desires? All right. Luke 16, verse 11.
If therefore ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust the true riches? And if ye have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who shall give you that which is your own?
There it is. So if you can't be trusted in handling the affairs of others, right? To be trusted in not robbing your brother, your sister for their hire, for their wages, right? Or doing business, you hire them. Are you trying to change their wages up to try to defraud them of what they are worth and what they should be paid that you agreed? All these different things is y'all testing you to see how you are either going to be trustworthy and honorable or you're going to be dishonorable to show him you cannot be trusted with the riches of the kingdom that he wants to give you. Right? Sirach chapter 10, verse 30.
The poor man is honored for his skill, and the rich man is honored for his riches. He that is honored in poverty, how much more in riches? And he that is dishonorable in riches, how much more in poverty?
So you see that? So whatever state you in, be it if you're rich or poor, he's seeing how you handle those affairs in that state. Are you being honorable even if you're in poverty, right? Being faithful, being content, trusting in Elohim, or are you greedy for gain, right? You have a desire, a covetous desire to be rich, therefore you compromise yourself and do dishonorable things. So be it if you're rich or poor, how do you handle the things that in the portion that Yah is giving you is telling Yah everything about you and what's in your heart? Luke 16, verse 13.
No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. He cannot serve Elohim and Mammon.
There it is. All right. Verse 14.
And the Pharisees also, who were covenants, heard all these things, and they derided him. And he said unto them, Ye are they which justify yourselves before men, but Elohim knoweth your hearts. For that which is highly esteemed among men is abomination in the sight of Elohim.
So notice when Mashiach is preaching, and the Pharisees, they are offended, right? Because they are covetous and he knows this, right? So it's pricking their hearts what he's saying to them. And he's saying, look, y'all trying to justify y'all wicked ways of getting these gains of oppression through covetous desires, right? But Yahuwah says that which is esteemed amongst men is an abomination in Yah's eyes. You see that? So we see that this wicked Babylonian system of gains of oppression and debt system is what's promoted, is exalted, right? This is what the merchants and everybody getting rich off of. But this is an abomination in Yah's eyes, all right? And he already forewarned us in the scriptures before we even came here to Babylon, America. But us waking up, returning back to covenant, we're supposed to be guarding these things because the very sins that the whore is promoting, Israel was doing before we were sent into captivity. So now we awaken and supposed to be returning back to the covenant, and we're going right back to the wicked ways that brought us into captivity in the first place. All right. Acts chapter 1, verse 17.
Because he was numbered with us and did receive his share in this service.
Mhm.
The one therefore purchased a field with the wages of unrighteousness, and failing forward, he burst open in the middle, and all his indices gushed out.
His intestines, right? So this is talking about Judas, right? Remember, Judas was amongst the disciples. He was counted amongst them, but he went and sold out Mashiach because he didn't believe that Mashiach came to do what in his mind that the Messiah was supposed to come and do. And he doubted. And he sold his own brother out for 30 pieces of silver. And with that 30 pieces of silver, his blood money, he went and purchased a field, right? He went and invested in a field and Yahuwah judged him. We see that his fate ended up being death, where he died a gruesome way, where his bowels and his intestines gushed out. And this to this day, in Acts chapter 1, verse 19, they named this field after that. Let's read that.
And it became known to all those who dwelling in Jerusalem, to that in their own language, that the field was called Hakal Damal, that is, field of blood.
The field of blood. All right. So when you purchase a field with the wages of unrighteousness, there's no blessing that comes with those things, right? Blood money isn't good. And notice the whore Babylon's money is built off of blood money system. And that's why if you asking for reparations, you want to be included and be a part of the horde, and you're going to reap and also her wicked ways and her wicked recompense for her wicked deeds on how she's prospering, how she even got these riches that you want from her. You see that? She built America off of blood. So this is all the foul things that the earth or the nations are coveting after. You see this? So Yah is letting us know we're supposed to be set apart. All right. The reason why things the way it is because he's covering, protecting his people for them to have a way to repent and come out of her. But many don't want to repent and come out. They want to abide and hold on because they think that they are owed something, right? When this was not your place to be brought to excel and to be achieve and be great amongst the Gentiles. No, you were here for punishment. You were supposed to learn your wicked from your wicked ways and repent and return back to Elohim and want to separate yourself from the nations and the Gentiles, not be like them even more. Same things that got us into captivity. Sirach chapter 10, verse 7.
Pride is hateful before Elohim and man, and by both do one commit iniquity.
Hmm? Verse 8.
Because of the unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another.
So this is how you forfeit the kingdom, right? By partaking in wages of unrighteousness, riches got by deceit, unjust gains, unrighteous dealings, right? This is iniquity. This is lawlessness in y'all's eyes, and this is how you forfeit the kingdom. Sirach 10, verse 9.
Why is the earth ashes proud? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man, for such as one setteth his own soul to sell, because while he liveth, he casteth away his bow.
There it is, right? So many are selling their souls today to the whore of Babylon. All right. So now let's look at this. Enoch, we're gonna look at Canok and Enoch and see even from back then when Enoch was teaching the Torah and the judgments before we even got the same law written on stone in Mount Sinai, that nothing new was under the sun, right? Let's see what Canok was telling the people here and judging the people by. Canok chapter 99, verse 11.
Woe unto you who spread evil to your neighbors, for you shall be slain in hell. Woe unto you who make sinful and deceitful measures.
Mhm.
Woe acquire worldly knowledge, for you shall be consumed by it.
Hmm. So understand these the deceitful measures, right, acquired by worldly knowledge. This is what people are doing today. Okay, this is when you are making dishonest gains using deceitful measures to sell your merchandise, right? So you can gain while you are shortchanging the other person, while you hustling the other person. This is worldly knowledge that you do that so you can achieve or make capital and profit, and then you are pressing the person who is buying into what you're selling, right? Because these are deceitful ways that you are promoting your product for them to give you top dollar while you give them not what it's worth for what their dollar is or what they're paying for. So this is these deceitful measures, okay, in the market. Let's look at Leviticus chapter 19, verse 35.
Ye shall do no unrighteous in judgment, in make yard, in weight, or in measure.
Okay, so when you are measuring, right, in yards and everything, when someone is buying up a certain product, be it if it's linen, whatever it is, you need to do it accordingly and don't be having the deceitful measurements, okay? Or weights when you weighing out something in ounces and different things that people are paying for. Whatever commodities you are selling, you want to deal truly because Yah is watching these things. You think no one's looking, but Yah sees all this stuff. You defraud your neighbor, okay? These are abominations in Yah's eyes. That word measure there is the Hebrew word masurah, And it means apparently to divide a measure for liquids measure, right? So even with liquid things that you are selling, and you're measuring it in ounces or, weights and these different things, he's letting you know that you need to be just and honorable in your affairs, right? Fair exchange is no robbery, but it has to be fair. You cannot be out here, you know, diluting your product like we talked about, in the last lessons about being a peddler or a huckster, and you telling them that this is pure, this is good, and you selling them something that's been diluted and adulterated, all right? And you making them pay something that is not worth. So this is being deceitful. You're gaining through deceit. You see this? And this is not fair. It's not just weights and just balances, all right? Or measurements. Leviticus 19:36.
Just balances, just weights, just ephah, and a just him shall ye hear half amp yahuah your Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Egypt.
There it
But
is.
when
So this is a command, not a suggestion, right? You are ordered to have just balances. And that means if you get a product that is not expensive, it's cheap, right? And then you come and then you sell it in the market beyond the market value. Okay, you are cheating and robbing a person. Okay, this is unjust balances, unjust weights. And this is what, again, the merchants of the earth being drunk with Babylon because she oppresses other nations, right? Brings their economy low, take their resources and mass reproduce for crumbs, right? Because they destroyed their economy, so they bring their power to the dollar, and then they purchase up a whole lot for a little amount. And then they come back here and sell it for crazy prices beyond the market value that they got the stuff for, right? And even if the materials that was being used was so cheap and you sell it beyond the market value, this product, you are then having unequal measures and unjust balances in the market and you're selling your products. So this is what it's talking about, these hucksters and these peddlers who they're like, shysters. These are people who hustle people out of their money by being deceitful about their merchandise and their products. Matthew 7 verse 2.
But with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye met, it shall be measured to you again.
So this works spiritually and in the markets. You see that? How you treat people is how you're going to be treated. So if you're going to be deceitful in doing your work or your business, then guess what? You're bringing that's going to be returned back to you, right? You're going to be being done in a wicked, dishonorable way by someone else. God's going to put you in those situations where your karma is going to come back to you. You understand? So you're not getting away with anything. And then you have to suffer even after this life. Not just in this life, but if you haven't repented and turned from your wicked way and you die in those sins, Sheol hell fire is your destination. You see this? Proverbs 16, verse 11.
A right scale and balances are of Yahuwah, all the weights in the bag are his
You
works.
see that? So if you are of your father, which is Shemaim, he is not a thief, he's not a robber, he's not a defrauder or a deceitful mighty one, right? He's a Elohim of truth. So you have to have righteous scales and righteous balances, right? Fair exchanges, right? Not unrighteous deeds and unrighteous doings. So Yahuwah is letting you know you need to follow, the righteous path, the righteous way. Proverbs 16, verse 12.
It is an abomination for rulers to commit wrongness, for a throne is established by righteousness.
There it is. So Yahuwah's throne is established by righteousness. And if you are to be a ruler or a leader of the people, your foundation needs to be on being righteous in all your affairs, business, anything that you put in your hands to do. You understand? Because this, if not, it's an abomination in Yah's eyes. Hosea chapter 12, verse 6.
Therefore return to your Elohim, guard loving commitment and right rooted, and wait on your Elohim continually.
So don't give yourself over to the covetous desires by trying to be a merchant of Babylon, right? To try to be successful and rich. No, do honest work, honest labor, and Yahuwah shall make your way prosperous. Wait on Yahuwah. He's going to baruch you. It's not the way that the wicked system tells you to get rich, is how you get blessed. Okay, that's the way you will perish by following their ways and not Yah's ways. So these are Bible weights and measures. I don't have time to go through it all as we got a lot to cover, but for y'all own resources, y'all can look here and see how the weights were measured through talents, minas, and shekels and because. And you can find the scriptures there where these measurements and these weights and so forth reference to. All right. Omers, ephods, all these different things. A hen. All right. Psalms chapter 10, verse 12.
Arise, O Yahuwah, O Elohim, lift up thy hand, forget not the humble.
Hmm.
Wherefore doeth the wicked contemn Elohim? He hath said in his heart, thou wilt not require it.
There it is. So Yahuwah is the Elohim who does not forget the humble. He hears their cry. But the wicked who think they're very crafty, right? They think they smarter than Yah or something, and they don't think that they're gonna be required for their wicked actions, right? That Yah's gonna recompense them. They think they're gonna get away with their unrighteous dealings. Verse 14.
Thou hast seen it, for thou beholdest mischief and spitery quite it with thy hand. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless.
Because again, these crafty merchants, right? These hucksters and so forth, they oppress the poor, right? They get over and hustle to pour out their money to buy their merchandise, right? So when you see poor in the scriptures, it's not just talking about people on the streets who begging for coins for food or stuff. Poor is the average low class brother or sister, right? Who is not a part of the rich or the elite class, who were just working 9 to 5, making ends meet, you know, paycheck to paycheck. And you hustling them out their money, robbing them, right? By adulterating your product, being deceitful about your merchandise, or even being an opportunist and taking advantage of them being in need of something to where you try to sell them, something for a crazy price or get something from them that's beyond the value or depreciate the value because they're in need at the moment. So you take advantage of them and be opportunists. The scriptures talk about that, how this is sin in Yah's eyes. So notice doing business in Babylon, you can't use your heart to do business, right? You have to be like a cutthroat businessman if you want to be top and successful and be an overachiever in the marketplace and compete. But in Yah's ways and doing business, you have to use your heart because He's the Elohim of love, and you can't just deal with your brothers and sisters when and your focus is just the bottom line, which is the dollar. You can't move like that. You won't be successful. You'll be in sin, doing wicked things, and compromising and being dishonorable just because you about the bottom line and not righteousness. All right. So this is this mischief and all these different things that Yah is seeing on how the poor is being taken advantage of and the fatherless and these things. And He's the helper of those who don't have the power of wealth and different things, right? Y'all saying, oh, y'all think y'all can take advantage of these people? No, I see all these things, and I'm gonna recompense you for these wicked deeds you're doing. Psalms 10, verse 15.
Break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none.
Look what the prophet is saying. He said, Father Yah, break the arm of the wicked who think that they can do these things to the poor and the fatherless and these people, right? These are evil men. He's saying, seek out their wicked ways till you find nothing, right? Meaning, cross every T and dot every I in their wicked deeds and make sure that they're not doing unrighteous deeds. Psalms 10 and 16.
Yahuwah is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land.
Mhm.
Yahuwah, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thy ear to hear, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more
You
oppress.
see that? So he hears their cry and he's going to answer. And you're going to have to answer for the wicked deeds you're doing and oppressing them through trying to get gains, trying to make money, trying to, take advantage. Proverbs initially chapter 11, verse 16.
A woman showing favor obtains esteem, but ruthlessness man obtain riches.
Why does it say ruthless men obtain riches? Remember, we talked about how these people are about the bottom line, To be a businessman, you gotta be willing to step on other people's heads to get to the top. You don't care if you have to undermine somebody or usurp someone, right? Supplant somebody to get ahead. You move in a ruthless way where you just care about you. As long as I get mines, right? These are how people obtain riches and they get at the top by smashing or trying to take down others to boost themselves and exalt themselves, right? They'll downplay another person's business, their product, what they doing to exalt themselves. This is being ruthless, right? This is not moving with the heart and walking in the love of Elohim, but this is how business is done, right? You have to try to tear down someone else to build up your business and these different wicked things. Proverbs 11:17.
A levelly committed man is a rewarding his being, but he who is cruel troubles his own flesh. The wrong one earns false wages, but the one sown righteousness a true reward.
There it is. So a loving, committed man who just labors in his work and suddenly, because again, he's a righteous man, Yahuwah makes his way to prosper and he rewards his being for these things. But a cruel man troubles his own flesh, right? The wrong one who's earning false wages, okay? There's a wicked recompense for these things, but the one who's sowing righteousness, a sure, true reward is for your labors, right? Proverbs, the Mishnah 11, verse 19.
Thus righteousness leads to life, and one pursuing evil to his own death.
So you see that? So either do righteous labors that produce life and you get sure true rewards from Elohim, or you can pursue gains of oppression through wicked evil deeds, which is going to be reaping death for those decisions and those works. Proverbs 11, verse 20.
The perverse of heart are an abomination to yahuah, but the perfect in the way are his delight.
Hmm.
Though his hand join to hand, and the evil does not go unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall escape.
Hmm. Amos 8, verse 4 through 5.
Hear this, who are swallowed up the needy to do away with the poor of the land.
There it is. So though hand join in hand, the evil one does not go unpunished. If you try to yoke yourself with people who are righteous, but you are underhanded, right? You're doing wicked things and being dishonorable in your affairs. Guess what? Yahuwah says the righteous, he's gonna make a way for them to escape out of the hands of the wicked. Okay. But the evil one is gonna be punished. They're not gonna be able to get out that situation. Okay. So he says, here it is, you who are swallowing up the needy to do away with the poor of the land.
Saying, when does the new moon pass so that we shall gain, and on the Shabbat, so that we trade our wheat to make the ephah small and the shekel large, and to falsify the scales by deceit.
So notice how they swallow up the needy and the poor, right? They say, oh, we know that they need these things. These people are opportunists. So they're saying they're looking for the need and then they're going to, exploit that need. All they can think about is how they can make gain. That's why I remember we read last week about how a merchant is hardly not doing wrong, right? Because his mind is always to covetous gain. He's always thinking about how he can gain more and gain more and gain more. A huckster too, who try to hustle you and adulterate their products to sell you so he can make extra gain by cutting his product to stretch it so he can make more gain, right? And diluting and adulterating it. So all these things is swallowing up the needy, right? Because you're defrauding the people and to make gain, making merchandise of them. And their heart is like, man, we can't wait for the new month, right? So we can sell grain. And even on the Shabbats, they're not even enjoying the Shabbat. They can't wait till the Shabbat is over so they can go try to trade and sell their wheat, huh? To make the ephah small, the measurement of the wheat small, and the shekel large, meaning, guess what? We're going to not give you what your shekel is worth in the amount of the measure of the wheat that you should get for that. We're going to actually reduce that and have you buying this price, right, for less value. You see this? This is the whole falsifying of the scales by deceit so they can get rich. Amos 8 and 6.
To buy the poor for silver and the needy for a pair of sandals, and sell the shaft of the wheat.
You see that? So again, they are finessing the poor out of their money so they can get rich and have silver and all that stuff, right? The needy for the sandals, and they sell the chaff of the wheat, meaning that again, they're not giving you the wheat, they're selling you the chaff, right? The residue of when they are grinding and getting the wheat, they're getting you the chaff of the wheat and selling it to you as if it's wheat. Okay? So this is the thing. They're always trying to get gain. They're always trying to do whatever that they can dilute or bare minimum and get the most profit. You see that? Amos 8 and 7.
Yahuwah has sworn by the excellency of Yaakov, I shall never forget any of their work.
Oh, but the Most High not watching us do none of these things. We just think we just getting money. We just getting to the bag. But Yah says, nah, I shall never forget any of their works that they doing that they think they getting away with and getting over on. Verse 8.
Shall the land not tremble for this? And everyone mourn who dwells in it, and all of it should swell like the river, and have the subside like the river of Mizraim.
Mizraim, right? So he's saying this is a judgment on the land. This is how you cause the land to sin. And Yahuwah now is to bring a judgment on a whole nation because the wicked system that everybody is adopting, trying to get rich through covetous gain. Mishali, Proverbs 11, verse 1.
A false scale is an abomination to Yahuwah, but a perfect weight is his delight.
Proverbs 20,
And
verse 21.
an inheritance obtained with greed at the beginning is not blessed at the end.
Did y'all hear that? So guess what? False scale is abomination. So you trying to get rich by having these false scales, you consider abomination in y'all's eyes, right? Because it's not you're not dealing fairly in the market. Then on top of that, he's letting you know Proverbs 20:21 says an inheritance obtained with greed at the beginning is not blessed at the end. Meaning if you through covetous desires try to obtain an inheritance by either being deceitful, right? Unrighteous gain through loans of interest, usury, right? Or taking your neighbor's house or inheritance by violence, meaning you undermining them, okay? Or you cutting corners to try to take what's there so you can inherit it. He's letting you know that which is obtained with greed through covetousness at the beginning will not be blessed at the end. You're going to lose the very thing that you did. Whatever you did to try to get this is going to be squandered. You're not going to be able to keep it in the generations or in your family, right? Yahuwah's going to make sure of it. Even though it looked like you succeeding for a minimum short time, oh yeah, y'all's gonna recompense you though. You're not gonna be able to get away with it and hold on to it. Mishali of Proverbs 20, verse 22.
Do not say, I repay evil. Wait for Yahuwah, and he saves you.
So guess what? So someone did some crooked stuff to try to take your heritage, your inheritance, be it property, lands, houses, wealth, whatever they did. Yahuwah says, oh, don't take matters in your own hands to try to repay evil and get even with those people. Wait for Yahuwah. He's going to deliver you from that situation. He's going to bring a recompense for anyone who tried to defraud you, steal from you, and take from you. You see this? Proverbs 20, verse 23.
Differing weights are an abomination to Yahuwah, and a false scale is not good.
So this is always repeated in the scriptures. You see that? Deferring weights instead of having a righteous weight that is perfect. Okay. But they're over here, moving and seducing people through these false weights and these false balances. Micah 6 and 9.
The voice of Yahuwah cries to the city, and let sound wisdom see your name. Hear the rod and him who appointed it. Are there still treasures of wrongness in the house of the wrong? And the short measure that is an abomination.
So he's checking to see in your house, are you using righteous measures or are you still using false weights so you can get gain? Right? He's seen how you do everything from your business and your dealings with your neighbor and everything. Verse 11.
Will I be innocent with the wrong scales and with a bag of false weights?
Right. So he's like, man, think about it. Are you innocent thinking you getting over on people in the marketplace? Hmm? Being a huckster or being a peddler or being a shyster or the frauder? Micah 6 and 12.
For her rich men are filled with cruel unrighteousness, and her inhabitants have spoken falsehood in their tongue is deceit in their mouth.
So they hustlers, man. They got the gift of gab, okay, to sell you anything. See this? So he's saying these rich men are filled with this cruel unrighteousness. They speak all this falsehood, and their tongue is full of deceit. Micah 6 and 13.
So I shall strike you with a grievous wound, to lay you waste because of your sins.
hmm
You shall eat but not be satisfied, and your inside be empty.
So Micah 6 verse 14 says, you shall eat but not be satisfied, and your inside be empty, and you shall store up but not save, and what you save I shall give to the sword. So notice Yah's is recompensing you for your unrighteous gains, right? Through your deceitful ways of getting riches and all these different things. He's letting you know I'm gonna strike you with a wound because of these sins. You're not getting away with anything. Verse 15.
You shall sow but not reap. You shall trim the olive but not anoint yourself with oil, and make sweet wine but not drink wine. For the laws of Omori are strictly observed in all the works of the house of Ahab, and you walk in their counsel.
Mhm.
Therefore I give you for a ruin, and your inhabitants for a husking, and let not bear the reproach of my people.
I hear that. So notice that because you following the laws of Omri and the strictly observed and works of the house of Ahab, and we talked about the iniquity of Ahab and the sins of the Amorites, right? Where they teach you the worship of things and covetousness, where you constantly work and work to acquire things and gain things, right? The idols of the heart and all these different things. This is what, Ahab taught the children of Israel, which was the sins of the Amorites, Baal worship that we see in Babylon, America, where everybody working hard to acquire things and they worship these things, right? And they constantly have covetous eyes where they're forever having wanting eyes and consuming things and never being satisfied because the whore is constantly feeding you things that you do not need, but constantly want and buying and consuming and never ever being satisfied. It's constantly on this covetousness. And so who is judging Israel for these things? And now Israel's still doing the same stuff in Babylon after 400 years of slavery, right? They're supposed to learn from these ways that got them into captivity, but they're going backwards instead of going forward and repenting. Sirach chapter 37, verse 7.
Every counselor extolleth counsel, but there is some that counsel for himself.
Mhm.
Beware of counselor, and know before what need he hath. When he will counsel for himself, is he cast a lot upon thee.
So Yahuwah is letting us know how when we dealing in the marketplace and trying to get counsel for different things, he's letting you know how to discern a evil merchant or a evil, a seller and so forth. It's letting you know that hey, someone if you looking for counsel, you looking for something, you trying to get something, be aware of the counsel you're receiving because some people counsel for themselves. Their interest is not for you and your best interest, but it's for their interest. You see that? So he says, beware of a counselor, know before what need he have, because he will counsel for himself, and then he'll cast a lot upon thee. All right. Verse 9.
And say unto thee, thy way is good, and afterward he stand for the side to see what shall befall thee.
Right. So imagine you counseling, you trying to get counsel on what product you need to get and what price, and they're telling you a whole crazy price for something, right? And you thinking they're giving you just the fair amount, fair counsel what this is, and they telling you that yeah, it's a good price, it's good, but it ain't good, right? He just finessing trying to get you to buy his product, but afterward he stand on the other side to see what befalls thee, right? To see if you're gonna catch on to what he just did, how he just hustled you. You see what I'm saying? So this is what goes on in the marketplace. So he's telling you have discernment, be aware, know the need of a person for you ask him for anything. Sirach 37 verse 10.
Consult not with one that expecteth thee,
Mhm.
and hide thy counsel from such as envy thee.
Verse 11.
Neither consult with a woman touching her of whom she is jealous, neither with a coward in matters of war, nor with a merchant concerning exchange, nor with a buyer of selling, nor with an envious man of thankfulness, nor with an unmerciful man touching kindness, nor the slothful for any work,
You're
nor
done?
with the
Uh,
nor with an healing of year of finishing work, nor with an idle servant for much business, hearkening not unto these any matter of counsel.
he's letting you know, be aware of your counsel and these different dealing with these different characters and these different people. Be it business, be it hiring, buying, selling, merchants through exchanging and all these different things because people counsel for themselves, not for your interest, but for their interest. Sirach 37, verse 12.
But be continued with a godly man, whom thou
Hmm.
knowest to keep the commandments of yahuah,
Hmm.
whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry.
So notice he's saying, don't get in business with people who is not people who are held accountable to the covenant of Yahuwah because many of these people aren't honorable type of people because they have nothing that's holding them accountable, right? So he's letting you know, go to someone who you know that fears Elohim if you're going to seek counsel about these type of things because they're going to deal honest with you. Because notice he says, even for the slothful for any work, nor with the hireling for a year of finishing work. Because guess what? There's some people who you hire and you hire them to do a service and they're telling you that it's going to take this long to do it just so you can pay them more by them stretching out the labor, right, to get the thing done. Opposed to if you search out the market price for this and how long it takes to get this complete, opposed to what they telling you, right? So this is how people try to oppress another by again counseling for their own interests and not being fair in the market. You see that? So all these things he's letting you know you can avoid if you deal with people who are, covenant keepers. If you're gonna do business or hire somebody to do a work, you know that they fear Yah and they're gonna be accountable to what they agreed to. Sirach 37, verse 12 says, but be continually with the godly man whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of Yahuwah, whose mind is according to thy mind and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry. So this is why you should seek people who know the word of Elohim, if you're seeking counsel concerning the matter, especially as the topic that we're talking about is business and, hiring and buying, selling, and doing these type of things concerning what the law and the Torah says. You know what I'm saying? Because then he can give you the right counsel, opposed to what the whore of Babylon is going to give you, which is wrong and sin and abominations. So someone who is held accountable by the Torah and the law is what you want to get counsel from, and it's going to show you what the word says, okay, concerning these things. Sirach 37, verse 13 says, and let the counsel of thine own heart stand, for there is no man more faithful unto thee than it. So after you have sought out the counsel of what the word of Elohim says, and those who are in covenant with the word, that that holds you accountable or are held accountable to this word, and then you let your own heart stand, the counsel of your own heart stand in that matter, and then proceed because you sought after Yahuwah Elohim and his spirit, and you allow him to lead you and guide you, knowing that the word is a sure foundation for you to stand on. All right. So Rock 37 verse 14 says, for a man's mind is sometimes won't tell him more than seven watchmen that sit above and in a high tower. Yeah, so you don't want to constantly be trying to look for other answers when the Most High settled the answer in you after you have sought his counsel and his word. Sirach 37, verse 15 says, and above all this, pray to the Most High, that he will direct your path in truth. Direct thy way in truth. So that's the whole matter, is that the truth is the word of Elohim, and you have sought the word of Elohim in prayer, and the rock leading you and guiding you, then that's your assurance, that your path is in right standing because you seeking to do what the word of Yah says. Don't seek counsel from the world because they're going to teach you their ways, the ways of the whore, opposed to the ways of Yah. All right. Sirach 37, verse 16 says, let reason go before every enterprise and counsel before every action. So again, you need to reason with your actions in light of the word of what Yah tells you to do. Okay. You need to seek his counsel in the word of Elohim and being led by his spirit on every action that you do, because you want to make sure you're on right standing with Elohim according to whatever you want to do, be it business, farming, anything that you want to do. There's laws in the word of Elohim that leads you and guides you how to do those things so you don't be found in sin. You don't want to be seeking the counsel of the whole Babylon that's going to lead you astray from the righteousness of Elohim.
Matter of Yahweh chapter 13, verse 22 says, he also that receiveth seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, and the cares of this world and deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becometh unfruitful. So your heart don't want to be after covetousness and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches. These things are idols that cause you to be unfruitful in the covenant and the word of Elohim. They choke the word, right? Where you become an unfruitful servant. So therefore, you should always seek the kingdom and its righteousness. All right. Sirach chapter 34, verse 18 says, he that sacrifices a thing wrongfully gotten, his offering is ridiculous, and the gifts of unjust men are not accepted. So notice what the word of Yah is saying here. So if you sacrifice a thing wrongfully gotten, meaning that if you were using the gains of oppression, right, to get money, be it through, loaning on interest, borrowing on interest, right, or oppressing a person that you hired to do a service and you oppress them by not paying him to get greedy gain, or just, doing any type of unjust or unrighteous gain that is not lawful and according to the eyes of Elohim. And then you want to offer that. You want to offer that as a sacrifice to Yah by giving it to the poor or going to help somebody or giving it that. He's saying your offering is ridiculous. If this is what you bring before Yah, it says, and the gifts of unjust men are not accepted. You see that? So whatever gift you want to give from the unjust gains you gotten is not accepted by Elohim because he is set apart, right? And you can't bring nothing that is profane and defiled before him. It isn't going to work. You're not going to accept it. So imagine you worked hard and you put all your all into this wicked, riches of deceit and gains of unjust that you've gotten just for y'all to not accept anything that you offering to him using these things. That's why he doesn't want you to abide and do those things because it's caused a breach between you and him and your relationship because he's set apart. He's not going to allow you to do profane works and then offer him profane sacrifices with those gains that you got from your unjust, works you done. It's not going to happen. Sirach 34, verse 19 says, the Most High is not pleased with the offerings of the wicked, neither is he pacified for sin by the multitude of sacrifices. So check that out. The Most High is not pleased with your unjust offerings and gains. Okay, it's wicked in Yah's eyes, and he set apart, he's not accepting it. And he says, neither is he pacified for sin by the multitude of sacrifices, because some people think that, well, yeah, okay, I did this unjust way to get this money and get these gains, and I have all this money through this unjust way of getting it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, give offerings to the poor and to churches and use that money for these things so I can balance it out, and then I won't get in trouble, I won't be in sin. When God's letting you know he is not pacified for sin by the multitude of sacrifices. I mean, if you're gonna take the money and give it for a good cause, think you being a good person, even though this is unrighteous money, unjust gains, he's letting you know that he's not accepting it and he's not going to pacify your sins because you giving those things as sacrifices. Because again, these are abominations in God's eyes. They are not accepted. These are ridiculous offerings that are unjust in his eyes and not accepted and wrongfully gotten. So there's no way he's going to pacify those things or he's going to bribe him to accepting those things because he's not going to defile himself with your wicked gains. Sirach 34, verse 20 says, whoso bringeth the offering of the goods of the poor doeth as one that killeth the son before his father's eyes. Did y'all hear that? So if you bring an offering of the goods of the poor, meaning that if you were doing unjust business where you took advantage of a poor person by finessing them out of their money, hustling them out of their money, through peddling your merchandise or through, you know, gains of oppression, he's letting you know that you bring an offering where you oppress the poor person and you bring that offering to Yah. It says as one that killeth the son before his father's eyes. So that makes you a murderer in y'all's eyes. See that? That's why you don't want to oppress the poor through gains of oppression and unrighteous gain and unjust works in business. You see that? Because Yah's not accepting any of those things. He looks at you as a murderer. Sirach 34, verse 21 says, the bread of the needy is their life. He that defraudeth him thereof is a man of blood. Are y'all hearing that? So yeah, the bread of the needy is their life, right? Their hire, their labor, and their work, and getting a reward from that to live is their life. And if you defraud him thereof by not paying him his hire, like the word says, You're supposed to pay him that day and not linger paying him days later or weeks later. You're supposed to pay him this day's service for his labor. And if you take that his living from him, then you are one that defrauded him. Therefore, you are a man of blood in God's eyes, a murderer. This is what Babylon teaches you, though, right? Sirach 34, verse 22. He that taketh away his neighbor's living slayeth him, and he that defraudeth the labor of his hire is a bloodshedder. You see that? So again, he's letting you know that how you treat people, how you do business with people, you can easily become a murderer if you do unrighteousness, in business and hiring and paying someone for their wages. You become a defrauder of the laborer. Sirach 34:23 says, when one buildeth and another pulleth down, what profit have they but labor? You see that? So one building and servicing you with their labor, right? You should pay him what he's worth. You should pay him, according to what you agreed. But if you want to, you know, pull down what he is doing, meaning that you're not going to reward him for his hire and his services, then what profit do you have then but labor? See that? There's no profit but just work that was done and nothing was earned from it. So that's not righteous to do. Sirach 34:24 says, when one prayeth and another curseth, whose voice will yahuah hear? So the one building and doing the service and then was robbed or mistreated, abused, or oppressed, taken advantage of, Yahuwah is going to hear his voice because he is the one who was, being unjustly treated. While the one who is cursing, which again, to honor means, when you look at the word honor, means to be heavy, right? To something that is worthy, something that is of value. But when you look at dishonor, it means to make light of, right? To make as not worthy or to be treated as something that is not of value. So when you curse someone, you speak evil, someone you make light of them, that's what you are doing, right? You're speaking evil, making light of who they are, and treating them in a way to where they have no value. So God's going to judge you for these things on how you treat the laborer of his hire. So again, Yah hears the cries of those who are oppressed, and he will deliver recompense. James 4, verse 17 says, therefore, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. You see that? So if you withhold good from someone from doing what you know is right? So you can gain, then you are doing evil and wickedness. You see that? Or just period, if you don't do what the word says, that's oppression if you're defrauding your neighbor. Okay? So you know that you should pay him for his service, and instead you withhold from doing what you're supposed to do, then guess what? It's sin to you. Jeremiah 17, verse 9 says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? So if your heart has not been regenerated by the word of Elohim and its set apart spirit, you cannot trust your heart. Your heart is desperately wicked and deceitful because it's going to lead you to do things that is contrary to the word of Elohim so you can gain and be happy with your gains. But it's not right in Yah's eyes, right? It's going to persuade you to do things that is not in light and in righteousness. So this is why you cannot trust your heart if you have not been converted to the word of Yah and his spirit. Jeremiah 17, verse 10 says, I, yahuah, searcheth the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. So Yahuwah is going to search your heart, and he's going to try you to see if you're going to compromise his word to try to get gain, right? This covetous, greedy gain or unrighteous wages. So he's letting you know. He's going to give you according to your works. Whatever your doings is you being honorable and doing righteousness in your works in business and with your brother and your sister, or if you're doing unrighteousness, you're going to be rewarded. Jeremiah 17, verse 11 says, as the partridge sitteth on eggs and hatcheth them not, so he that getteth riches and not by right shall leave them in the midst of his days, and at his end shall be a fool. You see that? So you think you're getting away with something by cutting corners and, doing unrighteous business to get riches and, being greedy, covetousness, getting unrighteous gains. He's letting you know, you that get riches that is not by a right way of getting riches, you leaving them in the midst of your days to be squandered. You're not gonna be able to keep it. And at the end, you're gonna be a fool because you worked and did all this wicked evil to try to gain stuff and then end up losing it because you can't keep it. because y'all's gonna make sure it is squandered. So those who oppress the poor and give to the rich will surely come to poverty. And he who oppresses the poor to increase his riches, and he who gives to the rich will surely come to poverty. So again, this is Proverbs 22, verse 16. And imagine you oppressing someone to get rich, and then you gonna give it to rich people who got money by oppressing those who are in need that don't have it, and you finessing them and getting them out of their money and hustling them just so you can give this money to rich people to get rich, costly things from their businesses. You see that and what they got going on. That's evil and wicked. And many people oppress the poor and give all kind of, special treatment to rich people. Imagine how many people go to certain establishments and they roll a red carpet out for rich people and be like, and put everything on the house for the rich person, right? Like, hey, we'll comp you this, we'll comp you that. You know what I'm saying? Oh, don't even worry about it. We got you covered. But the poor man don't get that type of treatment when he comes to the establishment. They don't roll the red carpet out for him and treat him and say, hey, we'll comp your meal, man. Don't even worry about it. It's on the house and all this and that because they look at them as someone of value, right? Someone who is of status and all these different things. So they treat them a certain way and then mistreat and oppress the poor people and still take their money. You know what I'm saying? So this is wicked and evil in y'all's eyes. It's not a just balance. First Samuel chapter 2, verse 2 says, there is no one set apart like Yahuwah, but there is no one besides you, and there is no rock like our Elohim. Do not multiply words so proudly. Proudly. Let no arrogance come from your mouth. For Yahuwah is an El of knowledge, and by him deeds are weighed, right? So don't think you know better than Yahuwah Elohim and you want to, do business the way you want to do and cut corners and think you're going to get away with some things and speak of this arrogance that you have to think that you know better than Yah, your creator, right? For this is all wickedness. Yahuwah is the El of knowledge, and he gonna weigh out all your deeds, and he gonna find you out of anything that you done that was unjust and repay you for it. First Samuel chapter 2, verse 4 says, bows of the mighty are broken, and those who stumble shall be girded with strength. The satisfied have hired themselves out for bread, and the hungry have ceased. Even the barren has borne seven, and she who has many children pines away. Yahuwah puts to death and makes alive. He brings down to Sheol and raises up. So Yahuwah is not a respecter of person. He governs the affairs of man, right? And he recompenses man for their evil works, be it if it's good works or unrighteous works. There is a recompense and a reward. You reap what you sow. All right. And this applies to all men in all different walks of life. Yahuwah again, he puts to death, he makes alive, and he also brings down to Sheol and raises up. Verse 7, Yahuwah makes poor and makes rich. He brings low and lifts up. So poverty and rich comes from Yahuwah Elohim. And he tests you in either state that you are in to know if you can be a trusted son of El or not trusted or a dishonorable son based off of the choices and the decisions and works that you do. You shall know them by their fruits. First Samuel 2 and 8 says, he raises the poor from the dust. He lifts the needy from the dunghill to sit with princes and make them inherit a throne of esteem. For the support of earth belongs to Yahuwah, and he has set the world upon them. So you see that Yahuwah maketh kings, and he casts down kings, right? He'll take the lowly and exalt the lowly and the humble and cast down the proud. Okay, that Yah is in control, and that's why you should trust in his way, keep his righteous covenant, and then you will prosper, and Yahuwah will place you in a place of your lot and your portion or position or exalt you at the appointed time. But you just have to be patient and doing good in his ways. First Samuel chapter 2, verse 9 says, he guards the feet of his loving committed ones, but the wrong are silent in darkness. For man does not become mighty by power. And that's what you have to understand. You don't become mighty by power, but by righteousness, by integrity and in character. This is how you become a mighty man, a Yah, who protects his committed ones that are committed to his covenant. He guards their feet in their path, but the wrong are in darkness. You see that? First Samuel 2 and 10 says, those who oppose Yahuwah are shattered, From the heavens he thunders against them. Yahuwah judges the ends of the earth and gives strength to his sovereign and exalts the horn of his anointed. You see that? So if you oppose Yahuwah's government, his righteousness, his law, statutes, and commandments, then you are going to be shattered by Yahuwah. He's going to thunder against you. You see that? And he's going to judge you according to your works. But again, he exalts his anointed, those who are covenant keepers, right? And abiding in him. Now we're going to look here at an example of Jacob, because Jacob is a prime example of someone who used, the methods of being deceitful, being an opportunist, being a huckster or a deceiver, okay, for gain. All right, now we're going to start from the beginning where we see that Jacob, he was making porridge and so forth. And Esau, his brother, who was the firstborn, when you read the story of Jubilees in the book of Jasher, it says that he killed Nimrod and he was on a run for his life, right? And he was weak in his, running and them trying to capture him. And he came across Jacob and he's making porridge and he tells him, give him some porridge or he about to die. You know what I'm saying? So he's in need. And guess what Jacob do? Jacob becomes the opportunist in the situation and tells him, sure, I'll give you some porridge in exchange for your birthright. Now, is this an equal, measure? This fair weights, this wages of righteousness to do that? Or you take an opportunity of someone who is in need, and because he's in need, you take advantage of them, take away something of value from them for crumbs, for nothing. You know, this is wrong and wicked, but this is what Jacob did. Okay. And we also see, Jacob in another situation deceiving his father Isaac, right? Pretending to be his brother Esau to get the firstborn inheritance blessing. Now, when you read the book of Jubilees and Jasher, it says that Abraham already prophesied that Jacob would be the one to carry the legacy of the kingdom and the covenant. Because he says that Jacob was a smooth man dwelling in tents, learning the oracles and the covenants of his fathers, right? Which is Yahuwah Elohim, his word and his covenant that he gave to the forefathers, Enoch, Shem, Noah, and so forth, all the way down to Abraham. But Esau was a man of the field, right? He wouldn't care about none of the covenants of the forefathers, concerning Yahuwah Elohim. He wasn't into those things. And Isaac loved Esau. But again, Abraham already prophesied that Jacob would be the one. Now, instead of his mother Rebecca just trusting in the prophecy and the promise that it would come through Jacob, she took matters in her own hands. You see that? And she wanted to secure for sure that he's going to be the one instead of just trusting Elohim. So then she told her son Jacob, hey, the father's blind, he's about to die soon. Once you go in there and make that venison that Esau does for him and put on this, this fur on your arms and pretend to be Esau and go get the blessing from your father. And Jacob, again, he's at the age of where he knows wrong from right. Okay. And he agrees to his mother's plot. And this is where he deceives his own father to get gain of an inheritance. Now, we just saw that the scriptures told us that a person who gains an inheritance in the beginning by unjust means, it shall not go well with him in the end. You see that? And we see what happened, what Jacob did, being anxious, covetous for certain things, instead of just waiting for Yahuwah to bless him with what he promised him, he went and committed such acts to gain an inheritance of unjust gains, right? Through oppressing someone else and taking advantage of another person, which is his brother Esau. Okay. So now we see that Jacob is now about to leave his mother and his father's house, and he's going to his uncle Laban, right? Uncle Laban's house. As he goes to Laban's house, he's going with wealth, right? He comes from Isaac and Rebekah. He has hers, and he got some money or whatever, substance he has, and he's going to go get a wife from his uncle Laban's house. And now on his travels there, guess what? Jacob loses all his wealth. He gets robbed. Someone takes his herds and any of the substance he had, to where he shows up to his uncle Laban's house broke and don't have a money for a wife, where he has to work, 7 years to get the wife that he wants. All right. And all this happened because guess what? He stole the birthright from his brother. Right? He took advantage of him, usurped him. And you know that the name Jacob means a supplanter, someone who usurps. And he sure did that with his brother Esau. And now because he did that, now he's going to Laban's house. And we're going to see how Yahuwah is going to correct and recompense Jacob for his doings, but at the same time, he's going to bless Jacob because this is the way of the chosen, right? When you chosen and been anointed, if you do wrong, Yahuwah corrects you and chastises you, but yet he still blesses you. His whole point is that he wants to make sure your character is right to hold the blessing of the promise. So you do not squander it and do anything foolish with it, and that it becomes a blessing to you, not a curse. So this is what he had to teach Jacob. So Jacob is now in Laban's house and he's working laboring. So I just want to give y'all the backstory, before we get into it. Now, in Genesis 31, verse 1, it says, and he heard the words of Laban's son saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father, he has made all this wealth. Okay, so Jacob prospering, in Laban's house, he's getting wealthy, right? And Laban has other servants, but they're not getting wealthy as Jacob. Jacob is anointed, the covenant of yahuah is on him. So Yah's making his ways flourish and whatever he puts his hands to. He's doing honest labor, making and getting gain from it. All right, righteous gain. Now, Laban's sons feel some type of way because he's prospering even more than his father in his house, right? And he's getting this out of his father's house. Now, Genesis 31, verse 2 says, and Yaakov would look at the face of Laban and see that it was not toward him as before, because he's prospering now and getting wealthy in his house. So now Laban is looking at someone who wants to oppress Jacob. Yeah, I want him to stay here so I can get wealthy. Because I see he's getting wealthy from serving and working under me. I want that wealth. I know we agreed for him to work for 7 years it is, but I got other plans for Jacob. See, so this is oppression, gains of oppression. He's trying to figure out a way to gain by oppressing his nephew. Genesis 31, verse 3 says, and Yahuwah said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I am with you. Okay, so now it's time to leave and to go home. Verse 4, and Yaakov sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field and to his flock, and said to them, I see your father's face that is not towards me as before, but the Elohim my father has been with me. And you know that I have served your father with all my strength. You see that? So we see that he's doing honest labor and serving Laban, right? He's not being a huckster, not doing nothing deceitful, but he has been tricked, right? He has been deceived, which we know he worked for Rachel for 7 years and then was deceived in getting Leah, just like he pretended to be Esau, deceiving his father Isaac and thinking that Isaac was giving a blessing to Esau and really it was Jacob disguising to be him. Well, guess what? Yah had a funny way of recompensing Jacob, right? To where he used Laban to be his weapon, to chastise Jacob by having him work 7 years for some and getting a wife that he initially didn't want, right? To where he had to work another 7 years. So now, because you were deceitful and gaining through deceit, now guess what? You're about to be deceived and getting something that you don't want. And while the other person gains from you staying in their house, just like you gain. You see that? So God is not a respecter of persons, as you can see. Okay, so now Jacob is working what 14 years for both wives, right? And but Yah's prospering his ways because as he's being corrected and chastised, he's being humbled. He's learning that, hey, I don't like being tricked, deceived. This don't feel good. So I don't ever want to deceive nobody else, right? This is how he learns through the things that he suffers, okay? What he's getting afflicted by. Genesis 31, verse 7 says, yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but Elohim did not allow him to do evil to me. You see that? So he's letting you know that, guess what? Laban deceived him, not just in the wives, right? But also in his wages. So this is, again, unrighteous, you know, gains, wages of unrighteousness in a sense of someone gaining through oppressing the poor. Jacob is a poor man right now, right? He ain't wealthy, but he became wealthy. But it was through he was being oppressed by his uncle Laban, but y'all blessed him regardless because Jacob continued to do righteous labor and y'all blessed his hands. Genesis 31 verse 8 says, when he said to this, the speckled are your wages, then all the flocks bore speckled. And when he said this, the streaked are your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked, right? So notice Laban's trying to oppress Jacob by saying, hey, I see he's getting wealthy with the sheep, and these certain ones are the ones that are outnumbering the other ones. So I'm going to tell him, look, the speckled sheep are your wages, because I see the other ones that are not speckled are the ones that are abundant, and I'm gonna take those for myself. So then Yahuwah made the speckled ones outnumber the other ones, so Jacob became more wealthy, right? And got more than what Laban would get. Then when it says, verse 8, it says, and when he said, the streaked are your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked. You see that? So he tried to change it to gain through oppression, through oppressing Jacob, Yahuwah always made it to where the very one that he made for Jacob to receive became the abundant one, while the other one was not. You see that? So that's why you just trust in Yahuwah, be faithful in doing what's right, and he gonna make your way prosperous. It don't matter what the oppressed are trying to do to you, because y'all gonna recompense them. They gonna get, you know, their judgment. Genesis 31 verse 9 says, so Elohim has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. See that? Jacob is observing and saying, I see how this works. I see how Elohim moves. Because Laban is oppressing me, afflicting me, and being deceitful, and and gaining by being deceitful, by oppressing me. Yahuwah made it to where all the livestock became Jacob's because of his unrighteous way of trying to, change his wages to become rich off of Jacob. You see this? So it says Elohim has taken away the livestock of Laban and given it to Jacob. Verse 41. It says, these 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your two daughters and 6 years for your flock, and you have changed my wages 10 times. 10 times he changed Jacob's wages. So again, these are wages of unrighteousness, on how you treat and oppress the poor and gain from them by oppressing them. You see this? But Jacob is getting a rude awakening too, right? He's learning what not to do and how he was a deceiver and oppressed those who were in need and took opportunity to take advantage of them, just like he did Esau. Now Laban's doing to him. Genesis 31 verse 42 says, unless the Elohim of my father, the Elohim of Abraham, and the fear of Yitzhak had been with me, you would now have sent me away empty-handed. See, if it was up to Laban, he would have sent Jacob empty-handed, but because Yah was with Jacob, so he wasn't going to allow Laban to just be ruthless against Jacob, to where he would be empty-handed after he didn't labor all those years. Verse 42, Elohim has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands and rendered judgment last night. So remember, he does justice and judgment. He will recompense every man according to his works. Jacob did righteous works, no dishonest gains was found in his hands, so Yahuwah rewarded him and made him abundant and increased him. While Laban, he diminished his by being unrighteous in his doings. Yah recompensed him a judgment where, the livestock decreased out of Laban's hands and increased in Jacob's. There it is. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10 verse 9 talks about how the Ruach HaKodesh wisdom delivered Jacob from the hand of his oppressor Laban, and even his brother who was trying to kill him, because again, when you are abiding in the covenant of Elohim, there's a covering and a protection even over you. Even though you may have done wrong, Yahuwah will chastise you, right? He will correct you in love, and it won't feel good. But notice, I want y'all to get this too for 1 second. Notice how Jacob did his act of deceiving Esau to get the birthright by, exchanging porridge for his birthright. That happened all in one day, right? Him, deceiving his father Isaac to make him believe he was Esau to get the birthright blessing from Isaac. All that happened in one day. Those choices that he made costed him 20 years to be oppressed by Laban. You see that? And be deceived by Laban. All this, Yah taught him a sure lesson. You see that? And he cares about this so deeply because he cares about your character, your integrity, and your life. He knows that I'm about to make Jacob, a father of the nation of Israel, right? He's about to give birth to the 12 tribes. So he has to make sure that Jacob has repented and his heart is in the right place and he's abiding by the covenant because he doesn't want Jacob to give birth to any sons and they follow in the paths of the curses that Jacob is, in bondage to because he hadn't repented and learned the ways of Yah by being a trickster and a huckster and being deceitful to get gain. You see this? So Yah loves Jacob and for his purpose be fulfilled, he is chastising and correcting him. And but look, this was a serious chastisement, 20 years, huh? Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10, verse 9 says, what wisdom delivered from pain those that attended upon her. When the righteous fled from his brother's wrath, she guided him in right paths, showed him the kingdom of Elohim, and gave him knowledge of the set apart things, made him rich in his travels, and multiplied the fruit of his labors. So notice that this is talking about Yaakov, right? Remember, he fled from Esau, right? After he had tricked him out of his birthright and everything, Esau wanted to kill him. And Yahuwah guided him, protected him, placed Jacob in right paths after he committed crooked paths before, right? By deceiving um, his brother and his father Isaac. All right. And it says also that wisdom, the rock, showed him the kingdom of Elohim. So notice the kingdom of Elohim is not something Messiah brought in the New Testament. The kingdom of Elohim has always been here from the beginning. It's the covenant of Yah. It was passed down from Enoch to Noah and Shem and all the way down to Abraham and here unto Yaakov. This is the kingdom of Elohim and his righteousness. Okay. But notice Yahuwah is teaching Jacob these right paths in the kingdom of Elohim. He's giving him this knowledge of Yahuwah set apart things in his covenant. And notice because as he's chastising and correcting him, and Jacob is humbling himself and submitting to Yahuwah's righteous ways and his paths, Yahuwah makes him rich in his travels, right? To where he got rich in Laban's house, traveling to go get a wife, and then leaving, he continued to increase when he going traveling and on his way back home. Okay? Yahuwah multiplied the fruit of his labors, and whatever he put his hands to, it flourished and was blessed. You see that? So he's teaching Jacob something. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10 verse 11 says, in the covetousness of such as oppressed him, she stood by him and made him rich. So even though his uncle Laban tried to oppress him through his covetous eyes, trying to gain off of Jacob by keeping him as a servant in his house, and changing his wages to try to keep him poor so he can stay working for him, Yahuwah protected Jacob, right? Made and stood by him and made him rich in Laban's house. Verse 12 says she defended him from his enemies and kept him safe from those that lay in wait. And in a sore conflict, she gave him the victory that he might know that goodness is stronger than all. See what he was teaching Yaakov? Hey, the way of the kingdom is stronger than any kind of way you try to cut corners and be deceptive and trying to gain and do things through gains of deceit and unjust gain. See that? He had to teach Yaakov this by the things he suffered and recognize, oh yeah, this ain't the right way to go. I don't like how this feels. How I treat people when people treat me that way, that don't feel good. I don't like that. I'm gonna do what Yah say. And look how Yah blessed me by doing his right ways and being honest and just in my work. You see that? So that's what he learned and gave him the victory over his enemies who was trying to oppress him. Show them that goodness is stronger than anything. Out of Yahweh chapter 13, verse 22 says, he also that receives seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, but then the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word and he become unfruitful. You see that? So I'm sure, you know, for example, we know Jacob knew that thou shalt not lie, right? It's a part of the law, right? It was the oral law back then before it was written on stone, and they knew this, right? Enoch, all of them knew this. But notice he was willing to do whatever, be deceitful to get gain of the inheritance, the firstborn inheritance. And these type of things, you're trying to gain stuff through covetous desires and deceitfulness of riches, right? He's letting you know that you become unfruitful. This is what makes you not fruitful in the covenant of Elohim, and you will not be successful. You see that? So he's letting you know, don't be covetous trying to get rich, right? To where you become deceitful and you become, like the whore of Babylon, who through deceit is gaining riches. right? Don't become like her, because then you become an unfruitful plant that doesn't produce the righteousness of Elohim. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 3, verse 10 says, but Ali shall be punished according to their own imaginations, which have neglected the righteous and forsaken yahuah. See that? Because they were seeking after mammon and wealth, so they reject and neglect the righteous path, right? And follow their own wicked imagination of their hearts, which is deceitful. Verse 11 says, for whoso despises wisdom and nurture, he is miserable, and their hope is vain. Their labors unfruitful, and their works are unprofitable. See that? So this is the things that choke the word to make you unprofitable, because you despise the word of Elohim. Okay? And your heart is in vanity, covetous gains. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 8 says, that thou seest the oppression of the poor and violent perverting of judgment and justice and of providence, marvel not at the matter, for he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they. So he's letting you know that you see oppression of the poor and you see perverting of judgment and justice and of providence. He says, don't even marvel at those things. But even though you may see people in high authority there that are getting wealthy and benefiting from this, but there is a higher authority that they're going to have to answer to, which is Yahuwah Elohim, who's going to recompense every man according to his works. So he says, hey, yeah, don't marvel, because there's a higher authority than even them. Okay. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 9 says, moreover, the profit of the earth is for all. Even the king himself is served by the field. So notice, the earth is for everybody to profit, right? This is what Yah gave man to receive the abundance of fruits, right? Ecclesiastes 5 and 10 says, he that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loveth abundance with increase. This is also vanity, right? So if your heart desires to get rich and to have silver and gold and all this, if that's what you love, then you are vain, right? You will continue to be empty. These things will not fill that void in your heart, because these are all vanity, things that come and go. These are not things that have substance that's going to fill you, because Elohim is that, right? That emptiness is because that's where Yah's supposed to be in your life. You're supposed to fill yourself with him, and you'll be whole and complete, not chasing after mammon and loving mammon. All these things are vain. But guess what? Babylon teaches you to love money, the music, right? The commercials, the movies, everything is people who are willing to do anything to get paid, to get the bag, to get wealthy. You see this? Where they compromise their integrity. They sell their souls for these things, and they still be empty, miserable, and even some of these people commit suicide because they don't find no type of rest for their souls after they sold their soul for these vain things. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 11 says, when goods increase, they are increased that eat them. And what good is there to the owners thereof, saving the beholding of them with their eyes? The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. There is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt. See that? So many of the rich, they just want to be wealthy and hold on to their riches, and it's all to their hurt. Verse 14 says, but those riches perish by evil travail, and he begetteth a son, and there is nothing in his hand. You see that? So all these riches got by unjust gain and gains of oppression, all these different things, letting you know that they perish by evil travail. I mean, and it's going to be squandered. Yahuwah's going to make sure that you do not prosper in those things. You just have a temporary fulfillment that you think you have, and then it is gone because you got it unjustly. And you're not going to be able to leave that for your son as an inheritance. It's going to be squandered. Ecclesiastes 5 and 15 says, as he came forth of his mother's womb, naked shall he return to and go as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor which he may carry away in his hand. You came in this world with nothing, you're going to leave with nothing. Ecclesiastes 5 and 16 says, and this also is a sore evil, that in all points as he came, so shall he go. And what profit have he that have labored for the wind? All his days also he eateth in darkness, and he have much sorrow and wrath with his sickness. So he's letting you know all this hard labor you did to get rich by unjust gain and gains of oppression and deceitfulness of riches and the wages of unrighteousness, all these different things you did. He said, what profit did you get? All you did was labor for the wind because the money is and all the wealth is gone, it's squandered, right? You wasn't able to hold on to it because Yahuwah made sure of it. And in all his days that he eateth is in darkness. He has no peace. There's no light in his life. He has much sorrow and wrath and even sickness. He's just deteriorating because he chose the path of death and not the path of light and life. Psalms 127 verse 2 says, "It is useless to work so hard for a living, getting up early and going to bed late, for Yahuwah provides for those he loves while they are asleep." See, when you are being righteous and doing righteous works, Yahuwah is going to baruch you abundantly where you don't have to lose sleep. You don't have to be working hard because honestly, the only person you're supposed to work hard for is the kingdom of Elohim. We're supposed to serve y'all with our whole heart, mind, body, soul, and strength, our might, right? Not mammon, not riches. You're not supposed to live. That's the idolatry. You see that? That's a form of worship. We only give that to Yahuwah Elohim. We know that all us work and labor, and it's just a means to an end. This is not what we're here and living on earth to do and give our might and all our strength and energy to. So again, it's useless to work so hard for a living, getting up early and going to bed late, because Yahuwah provides for those he loves. He makes them to increase in abundance who are faithful in him, even while they are asleep. Proverbs 23 verse 4 says, labor not to be rich. But guess what this world tells you to do? Labor to be rich. Get the bag, right? Work hard so you can get the bag, so you can get rich and you can be good and comfortable, right? That's what the world promotes, but that's not the ways of the kingdom. This is the way of the God of this world tells you how to achieve. And he wants you busy laboring hard to work because it's a distraction against the kingdom. It's a distraction from the covenant of God because you working now for mammon and not for Yahuwah. So Proverbs 23 verse 4 says, labor not to be rich, cease from thine own wisdom, because the wisdom of this world it gets you alienated from the kingdom of Elohim. Sirach chapter 11 verse 20 says, be steadfast in thy covenant. Notice what the focus is. Be steadfast in thy covenant and be conversant therein and wax old in thy work. Meaning be content with your work that Yah gave you and you should be focused on the covenant. Okay, wax old, be committed and faithful in whatever work and skill that Yah gave you to work so you can, provide for yourself in these different things, right? But your focus should always be on the covenant, not on the work. That's where you should give your energies to. Verse 21 says, marvel not at the works of sinners. Don't envy what the sinners are doing to get ahead and to get successful and have wealth, but trust in Yahuwah and abide in thy labor. You see that? That Yah's giving you to do. For it is an easy thing in the sight of Yahuwah on the sudden to make a poor man rich. Didn't he make Jacob rich, who was a poor man? Sure did. Made him wealthy. So y'all can do that for you too. He wants to do it, but you got to surrender to the kingdom of Elohim. You see that? You got to, choose the kingdom and all these things shall be added to you. That's why he told you to be steadfast in the covenant and conversing therein, and then continue to be faithful in the work, and Yah will make you to prosper. Suddenly, Ecclesiastes 5 and 18 says, behold, that which I have seen, it is good and comely for one to eat and to drink and to enjoy the good of all his labor that he taketh under the sun all the days of his life, which Elohim giveth him for it is his portion. So Yahuwah gives the righteous this good reward to, enjoy the fruits of their labor because they were faithful in their labor and Yahuwah made them prosper suddenly at his appointed time. They was patient and did not turn to the left or to the right for dishonest gain to get ahead with the riches of deceit and the wages of unrighteousness, right? They didn't choose that path. They chose the path of life and Yahuwah baruched them. Ecclesiastes Sirach 5 and 19 says, every man also to whom Elohim hath given riches and wealth, and have given him power to eat thereof, and to take his portion, and to rejoice in his labor. This is the gift of Elohim. This is Yahuwah's gift, right? This is the fruits of your labor. And the gift he has you to enjoy all these riches and wealth for you being faithful to his covenant first and the work that he purposed you to do. Verse 20 says, for he shall not much remember the days of his life, because Elohim answers him in the joy of his heart. All right. So now here's the warning, even in Sirach 21, verse 8, for those who want houses, what not to do. Sirach 21 verse 8 says, he that buildeth his house with other men's money is like one that gathereth himself stones for the tomb of his burial. You see that? So we talked about this a few weeks ago about gains of oppression of those who take and go and get mortgages, right? Which is loans on interest, which is usury, which is a sin and abomination in God's eyes. And he's telling you, he that buildeth his house with other men's money, be it you went to the got a mortgage, a loan from the bank on interest, is like one that gathered himself stones for the tomb of his burial. You see that? Because you enter into a mortgage, and we broke down what mortgage means, which is a death pledge, right? It's a dead pledge that you entered into. That's the agreement that you entered into. And it's a debt. And this is sin in God's eyes. And he forbids us from doing such things. But he has redeemed us and made us sovereign. And we're not to put ourselves into bondage to no man. Enoch, Kanok, chapter 99, verse 13 says, woe unto you who build your houses through the hard toil of others, and your building materials are bricks and stones of sin. I tell you, you have no shalom, no peace. You see that? So imagine you build your house through the hard toil of others. Imagine you took out this mortgage loan, which is a death pledge, right? Which is sin and abomination, to go buy or to get this house that you don't own, right? You're just a tenant. You're not the owner, but you got the mortgage to pretend you own this house. And now you owe this debt, maybe a 30-year mortgage debt. And now, guess what you do to try to secure this house and own it? You rent this house out to others who are now paying your debt. So now their hard toil and labor is going to paying off your mortgage debt, which is sin in y'all's eyes. This is gains of oppression. So now someone is building up your fortune by you oppressing them and them paying off your debt to this mortgage that you were already in sin and getting. You see this? See how evil this wicked system of gains of oppression is? You see that? So he's letting you know, woe unto you that build your houses through the hard toil of others, and your building materials are bricks and stones of sin, right? That's how you built this house, off the bricks and stones of sin and gains of oppression by oppressing others. And then look what it says. I tell you, you have no shalom. You're not going to have no peace in your life, no rest in your life, because this is, you adopted the ways of the whore of Babylon to get gains through oppressing others. This is wicked and evil in y'all's eyes. Kanok or Enoch chapter 99, verse 14. It says, one to you who reject the foundations and eternal inheritance of your forefathers, who shall pursue after the wind, the idol, for there shall be no rest for you. You see this? There is no rest for you. Imagine all these people who are doing these things, right? Off the hard toil of others, they're benefiting. Even when people have, bought a house and paid off a 30-year mortgage and don't pay their property tax, and now their house goes on foreclosure just for you, to go buy it up with a loan on interest that Most High told you not to even do. And now you go buy their house in foreclosure for pennies while they worked 30 years to pay that off. And now their inheritance is lost, gone, and you picked it up and now it's yours. See this wicked system of gains of oppression? Is evil. And the cycle continues, and those who all partake of it are guilty of the sin. So you got to repent and turn from doing these evil things and make it right. Woe unto you who reject the foundation of the eternal inheritance of your fathers, who shall pursue after the wind, the idle, for there shall be no rest for you. The people who work or labor to get rich are working after or pursuing after the wind. This is idolatry. This is what you gave your strength and your energy to. This idols of covetousness of the heart, right? Greedy gain, unrighteous gain. And you rejected the foundations of eternal inheritance, which is the covenant, the kingdom of Elohim. You rejected that to go after the whore of Babylon and her fornication, right? Her covetous, wicked ways of gains of oppression. You forsaken your forefathers' covenant, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So this is why you shall find no rest. These are curses that Enoch is telling you that happens for you to you when you choose the wrong path, because your God is Mammon. Enoch 99 verse 15 says, "Woe unto you who engage in oppression and give aid to injustice, slaying your neighbors until the day of the great judgment, because he shall debase your splendor." You see that? So if you engage in oppressing the poor, oppressing people, and give aid to injustice, where you fund injustice things to get gained, right? You aid in it, you support it by telling other people, yeah, go ahead, man. You can clean your credit up. Now you can qualify for that loan on interest. You can get this mortgage, get this 30-year mortgage. You'll be able to get that house, right? You'll be able to get this business loan. And now you can go get, credit cards and this amount from this and this amount from this bank and flip that. All this is evil and wicked. These are abominations in Yah's eyes. Gains of oppression, usury, right? Makes you a shedder of blood, a murderer in Yahuwah's eyes, to where you are now engaging in oppression and now you're aiding to injustice, slaying your neighbors until the day of the great judgment, man. Yeah, you become a murderer when you do this, remember? And guess what? It says, because he shall debase your splendor, meaning Yah's going to cause all the gains you got to be squandered, to where you are not able to hold on to any of that wealth that you made. It's going to go to the poor somehow. It's going to make its way to the poor and the needy, who you stole it from anyway, right? By oppressing them to get it. Verse 16 says, "He will instill evil into your hearts." Look at the curse that come behind this. He will instill evil into your hearts. He will arouse the anger of his spirit and destroy you all by the sword. And all the Kadesh and righteous ones shall remember your sins. And that's why everybody in Babylon is put to the sword, all the sinners, because they are all partaking of the ways of the harlot, right? They're gaining from her, you know, a system of oppression, and they're all partaking of it, creating businesses and doing all these wicked things to get rich. That's why the merchants are waxing rich, because they're following her example. So again, this is the recompense though for that. You be recompensed with all this evil and destruction, and your sins will be remembered, meaning you're gonna be guilty on judgment day. Enoch 102 verse 9 says, "Now I tell you, sinners, you have satiated yourselves with food and drink, robbing and sin, impoverishing people, and gaining property and seeing good days." Isn't that what the real estate market of Babylon doing to this day? Huh? Where you satiate yourselves, right? You able to go get them houses on foreclosure, right? You resell them on the market for a crazy amount of price off of someone else's hard labor and oppression. Huh? You benefiting, you eating good now, got drinks and food, robbing and sin, impoverishing people, stealing people's inheritances, gaining their properties and seeing good days. You thinking you good. Yeah, but there's a recompense for these evil deeds. Enoch 102 verse 10 says, "Have you seen the righteous, how their end comes about? For no injustice is found upon them until their death." You see that? So the righteous are in a peaceful place. See, he's asking you wicked people, you know how the righteous, their end is a great. They're in a peaceful place. No injustice is found upon them. That means they're not guilty on the day of judgment, because no injustice is found upon them, even unto their death. Verse 11 says, "But they perished and became like those who were not, and descended into Sheol, and their spirits too with anguish, because they chose the wrong path and not the righteous path." You see that? So this is your recompense, Sheol, torment. Your soul goes there. You descend there and you are tormented for eternity. Now, for those who want to be farmers, right? For those who want to be farmers, there are laws concerning farming and the land. Okay. The question becomes, can you sin against the land? Right. This is why I was telling you, if you want to be something, you need to concern with to see what the Torah says before you just become something, right? Because you can find yourself in sin if you don't know what Yah has to say about your endeavors. Now we're gonna look at Leviticus 19, verse 9 says, "And when you reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not wholly reap the corners of thy field, neither shalt thou gather the gleaning of thy harvest." This is a command, not a suggestion, right? So if you buy land and you growing crops and all these things, you're supposed to leave the corners for the who? You're supposed to leave the corners for the people to gather and glean from the harvest, right? Who are the people that's going to gather and glean from it? 10 says, "And thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and the stranger, for I am Yahuwah, your Elohim." You see that? So notice the corners are supposed to be gleaned by who? The poor and the stranger. Okay, so this is a commandment. If you're not doing this, then you are in sin. Okay. Verse 11 says, "Ye shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another." Notice what comes right after that command. You cannot gain through unrighteousness, deceit, falsifying scales and weights and ounces, and, diluting and polluting your product. Okay? Adulterating. You can't be doing this. You can't deal falsely, neither lie one to another. Verse 13 says, "Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning." Notice that is a command and not a suggestion. Okay? It's not an opinion. It is a actual command. It says you cannot defraud you shall not defraud thy neighbor. You can't rob him. You are considered a thief if you have your neighbor work a labor today, and when before the sun goes down, you do not pay him. If you do not pay him, you are robbing him. If you didn't pay him the next day, you robbed him 2 days, 3 days, however long you've been robbing him before you pay him, and you're still guilty for being a thief because you robbed him for all the time without paying him. You see that? You are considered a murder and abomination in God's eyes. Okay? So the ways of him that is hired, you shall not abide with thee all night until the morning. You see that? Because now you're into a whole nother day. He's letting you know, don't let another day pass without you paying him for that day's labor. Verse 23 says, "And when ye shall come into the land and shall have planted all manner of trees for food, then ye shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised. 3 years shall it be as uncircumcised unto you, it shall not be eaten of." So notice that for you who want to be farmers, you need to go and inspect the land before you buy it to see if it's virgin land, what kind of soil, all this different things, what's growing there, has anything been planted, or what's going on. And understand that if you planting any kind of trees, okay, of fruits for food, you have to count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised for 3 years, where you cannot eat any of it for 3 years. If you do, then you are in sin. These are the laws concerning farming. Okay? So many of us who want are Israelites who want to have homesteads, right? We want to build and have our own land and all this stuff. Well, yeah, it comes with Torah instructions, laws that Yah tells us to do to be righteous so our hands prosper and our lands prosper and be flourished and increase. And if not, we'll be in sin. And I want y'all to know that we went into captivity for breaking these laws. So Yah is seeing, have we learned anything from being in captivity and being, outcast from our home for these sins? Or are we repeating the same sins in captivity that's keeping us in bondage, opposed to, returning back to Elohim, right? Because we want to follow the ways of the Gentiles instead of learning Yah and guarding his ways. So again, yeah, when you get new land and you plant new crops and trees, you cannot eat from the fruit trees for 3 years. It's considered uncircumcised. Verse 24 says, "But in the fourth year, all the fruit thereof shall be set apart to praise Yahuwah withal." Right? So then the fourth year, you set apart the fruit as, dedicated unto Yah. Verse 25 says, "And in the fifth year shall you eat of the fruit thereof, and it may yield unto you the increase thereof. I'm Yahuwah your Elohim." This is a commandment if you want to be a farmer and you want to grow fruit trees and these things. This is what the law says you have to do. And if you don't do this, if you neglect this, then you are a sinner. Now you got sin on you because you want to be a farmer and didn't go follow the ways of the laws concerning, agriculture that Yah gave us. Deuteronomy 20, verse 19 says, "When thou shalt besiege a city a long time in making war against it to take it, thou shalt not destroy the trees thereof by forcing an axe against them. For thou mayest eat of them, and thou shalt not cut them down. For the tree of the field is man's life to employ them in the siege." See that? Only the trees which thou knowest that they be not trees for meat or food, thou shalt destroy and cut them down, and thou shalt build bulwarks against the city that make a war with thee until it be subdued. So notice the law even concerning when you go to war and you are, amongst the trees, in the woods or in the lands and in rural areas or farms or whatever. He's letting you know that guess what? The fruit trees, you are forbidden from cutting those down, for this are the trees of man's life for food. And this is how people are even hired to work to make ends meet, to make a livelihood by, working and gathering the fruits thereof. You see that? But you are permitted the trees that do not produce any fruit or food, right? You can destroy them and cut them down and make use of them for whatever you need in times of war and all these different things. So imagine that, y'all. It's forbidden to chop down fruit trees. So imagine you just went to a place and you just chopping down all the fruit trees, not knowing you ain't seeing. Leviticus 25 verse 2 says, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying to them, When ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto yahuah. 6 years shalt thou sow thy field, and 6 years shalt thou prune thy vineyard and gather in the fruit thereof. Okay? So 6 years, you can sow and reap. You can prune, you can gather, you can do all these different things for 6 years. But in the seventh year, verse 4, but in the seventh year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for yahuah. Thou shalt neither sow thy field nor prune thy vineyard. So notice there's a Sabbath for yahuah according to the land if you're a farmer. The seventh year, you are to devote that year of the land to rest. It's a Sabbath, a sabbatical year. Okay? You're not to sow the field nor prune the vineyard at all. Verse 5 says, That which groweth of his own accord of thy harvest, thou shalt not reap nor gather it. The grapes of thy vine undress, for it is a year of rest unto the land. So notice, you cannot go gather the harvest. You have to let it sit there. Okay? You cannot go reap it nor gather it. You cannot try to make merchandise and money from it or anything. It has to remain there. Verse 6 says, And the Sabbath of the land shall be meat or food for thee, and for thy servant, and for thy maid, and for thy hired servant, and for thy stranger that sojourneth with you. So remember how, every year you're supposed to leave the corners, of the harvest for the poor and the needy and the orphans and all that, right? But now on a Sabbath year, the whole harvest, not just the corners, all of it, you're not supposed to touch. So everybody on the earth, every type of person and individual can freely eat from it. You can go in there, pick up some fruit and eat, but you can't go gather no buckets and gather it like or like you hauling off fruits and stuff so you can sell it in the markets. So you can't gather it like that. You can't reap it. All you can do is go in just like the poor and the needy and just come and glean from it. That's the only thing you can do is glean from it on the Sabbath year. Verse 7 says, And for thy cattle also, and for the beasts that are in thy land, shall all the increase thereof be meat. So even your herds, everybody's herds, their flocks, their animals can come and eat, of the harvest, because everybody is able to glean on the Sabbath. Everybody has everything they need. No one has to work for nothing. It's a Sabbath year for the land. Verse 11 says, A jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. Ye shall not sow, neither reap that which groweth of itself in it, nor gather the grapes in it for thy vineyards. Okay, so now on the seventh year, it's a Shabbat rest for the whole year. And then the 50th year, which is the jubilee, is the year of release for the land. Okay, you are not to sow, neither reap also. Everything that grows of itself, you can't gather anything of the grapes, none of that. For verse 12 says, For it is the Jubilee, it shall be set apart unto you. You shall eat the increase thereof out of the field. So notice you glean from the field just like the poor, just like the fatherless and the orphans. This is now what you do on the Jubilee. You just go in the field and eat. You don't go and gather no buckets and harvest, to try to bring it in to your storehouses so you can sell it and do no type of stuff like that. You are forbidden from gathering it. You can only glean and eat from it. Verse 13 says, in the year of this Jubilee, you shall return every man into his possession. So even in the Jubilee, if anybody became your servant because they was in debt and they need to pay it off, or they needed to work for you because they needed to pay somebody, whatever the case is, when the Jubilee takes place, they are free from whatever debts, okay? And they get to go back home and they are no longer your possession as a servant or bondsman or maid servant, whatever. Verse 14, it says, if thou sell aught unto thy neighbor or buyest aught of thy neighbor's hand, you shall not oppress one another. Okay, so again, if you do any buying and selling between each other, you are not to oppress each other. Leviticus Wa'ikra chapter 25, verse 15 says, according to the number of years after the Jubilee, thou shalt buy of thy neighbor, and according to the number of years of the fruit, he shall sell unto you. All right, so this is how y'all continue to do commerce between each other. All right. So this is according to the number of years after the Jubilee, how you are to buy and sell to one another. All right. Verse 16 says, according to the multitude of years, thou shalt increase the price thereof. And according to the fewness of the years, thou shalt diminish the price of. For For according to the number of the years of the fruits doeth he sell unto you. Okay. This is how you know you can get a wholesale bundles, of product, or from the diminished price for the fewer product. So according to the multitude of years, you shall increase the price of, your produce. But then according to the fewness of the years, you are to diminish the price, okay, of your produce that you are selling to your brother or your sister. Okay. So any of this merchandise that you are selling here from the fruits of your field, this is how you are to do it for those who are, long time, salesmen or investors or so forth, and those who are short, fewness of years. Verse 17 says, you shall not therefore oppress one another, but thou shalt fear thy Elohim, for I am yahuah, your Elohim. Okay. So we see wholesale and retail, and we see how we are to do business between each other to where no one is oppressing each other. All right. Verse 18 says, wherefore ye shall do my statutes and keep my judgments and do them, and ye shall dwell in the land safely. So notice, by guarding Yahuwah's word and doing business and selling and doing all these different things and releasing on the Jubilees, so everybody is sovereign and no one can be made into a slave. This is how the land stays in safety and continues to prosper, and you remain safe as well. Verse 19 says, and the land shall yield her fruit, and ye shall eat your fill, and dwell therein safety. Verse 20, and if ye shall say, what shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow nor gather in our increase. Right? Because remember, you're not supposed to sow or gather on the 7 years. So they like, man, what we gonna do? What we gonna eat? Guess what? Verse 21 says, then I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and it shall bring forth fruit for 3 years. So just like on the Shabbat day or the day before the Shabbat, the preparation day where you cook for 2 days, you cook for that day or that night that you're going to eat, and you're going to also cook for the day of the Shabbat, right? So now you have double, twice the amount of food, so you are prepared for the Shabbat day where you don't have to do no work. So Yah's doing that also on the sabbatical years, right? On the 6th year, he's going to give you 3 times as much produce from the field, okay? That's going to carry you over. So on the Shabbat year, that 7th year, you don't have to plant, sow, reap anything. You're going to be good off of the storage of the 3 years that he gave you on the 6th year, okay? Verse 22 says, and ye shall sow the 8th year, and eat yet of old fruit until the 9th year. Until her fruits come in, ye shall eat of the old store. So you'll be eating of the old store even until the 9th year, because he gave you 3 years much of produce on the 6th year, preparing you for the Sabbath, the 7th year, Jubilee, the sabbatical 7th year, and the all the way up to the 9th, because you got 3 years of produce stored up for you. Leviticus 25, verse 24 says, in all the land of your possession, you shall grant a redemption for the land. Okay. Verse 25 says, if thy brother be waxing poor and have sold away some of his possessions, and if any of his kin come to redeem it, then shall he redeem that which his brother sold. So yeah, so if your brother waxed poor and he got to sell some of his property or possessions, what it is, anyone else that is of his kin could come redeem it. Okay? They can come redeem that which he had to sell. So you can't refuse for someone else coming to buy his possession. Okay? You can't be like, nah, I want that for me. I'm not selling that, Ak. It ain't happening. I want this for myself. Nah, that's sin because Yahuwah says any one of his kin can come redeem what he sold to you. Okay? Verse 26, and the whole point is for his inheritance or possession to stay within the family and within his house to where his inheritance isn't removed from him and his tribe or his family. All right. Verse 26 says, and if the man have none to redeem it and himself be able to redeem it, then let him count the years of the sale thereof and restore the overplus unto the man to whom he sold it, that he may return unto his possession. So notice, he's letting you know that if he gave you his possession, be it if it was lands, houses, whatever it was, right? Because he had to sell it because he was poor. When he's able to redeem it, you got to count how many years you had his stuff and the overplus that was produced from it. Meaning, if you had his lands for a few years and he made, produce from that land and you was able to make money off of that, the overplus from it, you have to restore back to him that sold it to you when he comes to get it and redeem it because he got the money to redeem it now. See that? You can't withhold it from him and you can't let him go empty-handed after he comes to redeem you if you had it for however many years you had his stuff that he sold to you and you benefited and made money or you made, some type of gain and profit from. Verse 28 says, but if he be not able to restore it to him, then that which is sold shall remain in the hand of him that have bought it until the year of Jubilee, and in the Jubilee it shall go out, and he shall return to his possession. So he's letting you know if the man isn't able to redeem his possession from you because he ain't got the money to do it, then you can continue to hold on to it, but only until the time of the Jubilee. When it's the Jubilee year, you have to release it back to him. Okay? So all debts are canceled in the Jubilee to where all the possessions that are the original owners go back to them. All right. Verse 29 says, if a man sell a dwelling house in a walled city, then he may redeem it within a whole year after it is sold. Within a full year may he redeem it. So according to the law, if you have a walled city, like, a state or a house or whatever in the city, and you sold it because you needed some money, you have a full year's time to buy it back, where nobody can refuse you buying your house back. For a full year, you got any time in that year to get it back from the man by purchasing it back. You could redeem it. Okay. Verse 30 says, and if it be not redeemed within the space of a full year, then the house that is in the walled city shall be established forever to him that bought it through his generations. It shall not go out in the Jubilee. So notice, if you don't redeem it within that full year, this house that's in the walled cities, then the person that bought it from you gets to keep it. It doesn't go out on the 50th year of the Jubilee. You don't get that possession back because this is actually, you know, houses that's in the city. So it's a different law for the city house as opposed to the village, which we're about to see. Verse 31 says, but the houses of the villages which have no wall around about them shall be counted as the fields of the country. They may be redeemed, and they shall go out in the Jubilee. Okay. So the village houses you can redeem at any time if you have the money to redeem it. And if you don't have it, then you have to wait to the Jubilee, the 50th year, and then you can redeem it then, right? It'll be given back to you because it's your original possession. Verse 32 says, but notwithstanding, the cities of the Levites and the houses of the cities of their possession may the Levites redeem at any time. Okay. So now the city, walled city houses, the say the Levites didn't redeem it within a full year, they can still redeem it next year, a couple months after that, however long at any given time they want, whenever they get it, they can redeem it, meaning you cannot refuse them redeeming their possession when they get the money to redeem it. Okay? So they don't just have one full year access to be able to do it and then it's not granted to them afterwards. No. They got a unlimited time, okay, to redeem it. The only reason why this is, special laws for the Levites is because the Levites don't have an inheritance amongst their brothers, the children of Israel, because Yahuwah made the Levites his portion, right? His inheritance. And they get all the offerings and everything that belongs to Yah, right? Yah gives that to them because they don't have no inheritance amongst their brothers because they're the priests. And the priests are scattered throughout the nation because they do the service of the priesthood. Sirach 26, verse 19 says, my son, keep the flower of thine age sound, and give not thy strength to strangers. When thou hast gotten a fruitful possession throughout all thy field, sow it with thine own seed, trusting in the goodness of thy stock. Okay? So our own seed is the organic seed that Elohim has given us. Okay? And the natural seed. Don't get none of these GMO seeds. Okay? Don't follow the Gentiles trying to do what they do, but natural, real seeds you sow, right? Trusting in the goodness of thy stock. This is also even amongst us building families, right? You should always have your race as the prize stock that you invest your seed into to replicate your image and likeness in your lineage of your fathers. Sirach 26 verse 21 says, so thy race which thou leavest shall be magnified, having the confidence of their good descent, right? This is again about love for self, right? Having pride in your own heritage and your own nation. This is a healthy love, with yourself, to where you do not hate yourself like Babylon teaches you to hate yourself, hate your images, hate your likeness, you know, while they envy it and go get all kind of surgeries and implants and all kind of stuff to be and have the features you have, right? But you should love yourself and not envy the Gentiles and what they look like and what they have. Jeremiah 32 verse 6 says, and Yirmiyahu said, the word of Yahuwah came to me saying, see, Hanamael, son of Shalom, your uncle is coming to you saying, buy my field, which is in Anoth, for the right of redemption is yours to buy it. So we just looked up in Leviticus or Wayikra about the law of redemption, how you can redeem your possessions if you had to sell it. And those who are close to kin can redeem it for you if you don't have the money to get it. We see Jeremiah is applying this law, doing righteous buying and selling. Okay. Jeremiah 32 verse 8 says, so Hanamel, my uncle's son, came to me in the court of the guard according to the word of Yahuwah and said to me, please buy my field that is in Anathoth, which is in the land of Benjamin. For the right of inheritance is yours and the redemption. Buy it for yourself. And I knew that this was the word of Yahuwah. Right? Verse 9 says, and I bought the field which was at Anoth from Hanamael, my uncle's son, and weighed out to him the silver 17 shekels of silver. And I signed the deed and sealed it, took witnesses, and weighed the silver in the scales. Then I took the deed of purchase, that which was sealed according to the command and law, and that which was open. So this is how you go and buy a house, right? And for ownership, when you want to own a house, you bring, you have to sign your signature on the deed, and you have your receipt of purchase, and you have witnesses. Remember, in a matter of two or three witnesses, that every matter be established, right? So you have to have the witnesses there who also are there, and then you have the money to purchase the property. So this is how we acquire land as Hebrews, as Israelites, all right? Jeremiah 32 verse 12 says, "And I gave the deed of purchase to Baruch, son of Neriah, son of the Mahuseh, in the presence of Hanamael, my uncle's son, and in the presence of the witness who signed the deed of purchase." So the witnesses also have to sign on the deed, all right? Before all the Yahudim who sat in the court of the guard. Verse 13 says, "And I commanded Baruch before their eyes, saying, Thus saith yahuah of hosts, thy Elohim of Israel, take these deeds, both this deed of purchase, which is sealed, and this deed which is open, and put them in an earthen vessel, so that they remain many days. For thus said Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of Yasharal, houses and fields and vineyards shall again be bought in this land." See that? So we see this is how our people acquired land and was able to, remain. So we know that Jeremiah, this is during the time where Israel was going to the, Babylon captivity through Nebuchadnezzar. And Yahuwah has Jeremiah buy these lands so they still have ownership and stock in their own country. All right. Ezekiel 28 verse 25 says, "Thus saith the Master Yahuwah, when I have gathered the house of Israel from the people among whom they are scattered, I shall be set apart in them before the eyes of the nations, and they shall dwell in their own land which I gave to my servant Yaakov. And they shall dwell safely and build houses and plant vineyards and dwell safely when I execute judgments on all those around them who despise them. And they shall know that I am Yahuwah their Elohim." You see that? So they're dwelling safely because they're carrying out the laws of Yahuwah according to his Torah, right? And how they deal with the land, how they deal with business, how they do all that. This is why they're gonna be dwelling safely, and Yah's covering is on them. Now, words are easy to say, right? But doing it is always the difficult part. People are in debt and they don't know how to get out of it. Or they don't think they can survive in a world without going into debt, especially in the area of buying a house and the mortgage system. And along with that, everyone believes that they must have just as good of a house as everyone else. So there's a lot with being spoiled and going for our wants instead of our needs. When you walk with Yahuwah, he provides all our needs. Okay? And we see that in Matthew chapter 6, 26 to 33. And Luke 12, verse 28 says, "If then Elohim so clothe the grass, which is today in the field, and tomorrow is cast into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O little faith? O ye of little faith." Verse 29 says, "And seek not ye what ye shall eat, or what you shall drink, neither be ye of doubtful mind. For all these things do the nations or the Gentiles of the world seek after. And your Father knoweth that you have need of these things. But rather seek ye the kingdom of Elohim, and all these things shall be added unto you." So notice the procedure, right? And the order of priority is the kingdom first, the covenant of Yah, and then everything else is added to you because you are a faithful covenant keeper. You see this? So you can't put everything before the kingdom and think that you're going to prosper. You're not. You're going to be in sin because Yah should be first. Everything else is an idol if you place it before Yahuwah. You see that? And the cares of this life and this world are things that choke the word in the covenant of Elohim, because your mind is given to those things on how I'm gonna get this and when I'm gonna get that. And when Yah knows you have need of these necessities, right, of life, and He gonna make sure that you have those things that you need. Okay? He provides all of our needs. Now, Philippians chapter 4, verse 19 says, "But my Elohim shall supply all your need according to his riches and esteem by Mashiach yahusha." So Elohim supplies all your needs according to his riches. Okay? It's Yahuwah's good pleasure to give you these things. He is our Father. Now, Psalms 34, verse 10 says, "The young lions do lack and suffer hunger, But they that seek Yahuwah shall not want any good thing. You see this? So it's our wants that get us into debt. We have to put all those wants behind us and stop looking to the things of the flesh to satisfy us because there is no satisfaction there. Okay? Psalms 23 verse 1 says, Yahuwah is my shepherd, I shall not want. Okay, when you look up the Septuagint, it says, Yahuwah tends me as a shepherd, and I shall not want anything. You see that? So we are not lacking anything, and we are not in want of anything because Yahuwah provides all of our needs. Now, if we desire our wants, that's how covetous things get into place. And that's why you should be content with the things Yahuwah has, and you busy serving Yahuwah, guarding the covenant of the kingdom to where he adds anything else that your heart desires. You see that? Long as it's in righteousness, desires and righteousness in Yah's eyes. Okay? So we know that we don't lack and want anything because Yahuwah provides. If we if we live life to where we believe that we're not going to be provided the needs that we need, then we are lacking faith in Elohim because he provides those things. So when we live and operate from a mindset as if, we're not secure in Elohim, right? Then we kind of spit in Elohim's face. It's like an insult to Yah. Just like the children of Israel in the wilderness, it was like, we're going to die here because we don't have nothing that we had in Egypt and Babylon, right? So they over there complaining and wondering if Yah gonna provide for them in the desert, thinking he can't do such things, right? Little faith. So then they start murmuring, complaining, and their minds wander to vanity and foolish imaginations, right? Opposed to just trusting Elohim and knowing he is your provider. He showed you already mighty signs and wonders. You don't think he can make sure you got food in this wilderness? And Yah is asking us the same thing today. Do we have faith and believe that he tells us to, don't worry about these things because Yah knows you have need of them and you are more precious than the grass and the birds who are fed every day, all right, and nourished. And you are more precious than those things. So why should we be worried and consuming ourselves with these thoughts of vanity, right, and vain things that the Gentiles worry about when we know our Father is with us? And if Yahuwah is telling us to come out of Babylon, right, and go into the wilderness where he provided for us before, we're supposed to believe and have faith that Yahuwah is, a rewarder of them that seek him and those who obey his word. He is a faithful, right? He is faithful to. So you have to trust in Elohim. Your faith is going to be what determines if you're going to abide by Yah and come out of Babylon, right? And fulfill Yahuwah's will and his purpose by your zeal and your faith according to wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Yahuwah Elohim and moving by his spirit, guarding his word and his covenant. All right. So you have to make a decision. But we all have heard the message to come out from among them, come out of Babylon mentally, spiritually, and physically. Okay. Also, we are shown in First Samuel chapter 22, verse 1 through 2, that those who were in distress and everyone that was in debt and everyone that was discontented abandoned all of those things and they went to a man of Yahuwah named David and had him rule over them. They abandoned that yoke and heavy burden of bondage of the ways of the heathen and exchanged it for a yoke that is easy and a burden that's light. And we must do the same thing. We must put all those things behind us and follow Yahusha HaMashiach only, and not the ways of the world, without bringing you into bondage through debt. The beast has no power this way. All right. Now, matter of Yahoo, or Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 says, Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Okay. Verse 30, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Okay. So we see that. So Yahuwah's ways to prosper and his laws It's an easy yoke. It's not burdensome, right? It's not grievous. Now let's find out what this yoke is. Second Baruch 41 verse 3 says, "For behold, I see many of your people who separated themselves from your statutes and who have cast away from them the yoke of the law." So notice this yoke that Mashiach is telling you is easy and light, is the law, statutes, and commandments of Elohim, right? It's not burdensome, okay? This is something that is easy and of light. But it's letting you know that there are many people who separated themselves from his yoke and took on the burdens of this world and are heavy laden, right, with the cares of this world and the covetousness of it. And they are, become unfruitful people because the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke up the word to where you become unfruitful servants. And you become a servant of mammon and the wicked system of this world opposed to Yahuwah Elohim. Okay, this is why he told you don't be concerned about certain stuff that the Gentiles lost in, because that's not the way to serve Yah. That's how you start serving the God of mammon and the God of this world. All right, you gotta trust and know Yahuwah is your Elohim, your shepherd, and he's gonna provide for you. Okay, he's gonna make sure you have the things you need and bless you with your heart's desires if you put the kingdom and his covenant first and his righteousness. All right, so we see that people have separated themselves from this yoke that is easy and is light, which is the law of Elohim. And what else? Chapter 41, verse 4 says, "Further, I have seen others who left behind their vanity and who have fled under your wings." So see there's people who are leaving behind their, vain imaginations, their vain, covetous gain, right? And covetous desires. Okay. And they have fled under Yahuwah's wings, under the covering of his righteousness and his kingdom and his law, statutes, and commandments, the word of Yah. And it's this yoke that is easy and light. So you have those who separate and forsake it, cast it away, and then you have those who actually cast away the vain vanity of this world and chosen the path of righteousness, the yoke of the law of Elohim that is light and easy. If we read the history of Elohim's people, we find that sin always leads to slavery, and that's why we must follow his words and his commandments. Why Leviticus 25 verse 23 says, "The land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine, and for ye are strangers and sojourners with me." So when you know that you are a pilgrim in the earth, meaning, you are a nomad, a Hebrew who is a wanderer, okay? You don't have any attachment to things when Yah tells you to move and go and to follow where he tells you to go and to be. Okay, because you understand that you don't belong to yourself. You have been bought with the price. You belong to Yahuwah Elohim. He is your shepherd that leads you and guides you, and you know that your comfort and your trust is in him. Okay, and you know that even the land that he is giving you is not yours. It's Yahuwah's land, and he's allowing you to live there. Okay, he's allowing you to have a part in his inheritance. So notice he says that the land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine, saith Yahuwah. For ye are strangers and sojourners with me. So we are strangers and sojourners in Yahuwah's land. It's not ours, it's Yah's land. But he allowed us to be, in covenant with him to where he has given us an heritage, okay, for us to have a home. All right. And we still got to take care of his home. We have to still, you know, abide by his laws to live, safely under his, protection and his land. So when you have your mind understand that, you shouldn't be attached to any things of this world, knowing that you belong to Yahuwah and your home is in his land, in his house, all right, which is his, and you are sojourners and strangers with him. And with that being said, family, that concludes the lesson for today. Ran out of time, but we covered a lot. So pray it was a blessing to everybody. Any questions pertaining to the lesson? All right. With no questions, we'll go ahead and pray on out. Baruch atah Yahuwah. Blessed be your name, Almighty Yah, and total Rabbi Yah for this word that went forth today, O Yahuwah. We just pray that these words will seep deep down in our hearts, Almighty Elohim, that we will guard your covenant with all diligence. Keep you at the forefront of our heart in all things that we do, Almighty Yah. And that you continue to be our strength, to continue to endure to the end, bearing your good fruit, Almighty Elohim. We just thank you for your peace and your joy that is our strength, Almighty Yah. And we thank you, Father, for directing us and guiding us and keeping us for your name's sake. Hallelujah, Yahuwah. And Father, we just pray as we depart from this place, O Yahuwah, that you continue to cover us in the precious blood of Yahushua Mashiach, and please keep your mighty warrior, Archman King, surrounding us and protecting us from anything seen and unseen dangers. We also pray that your force field and your shield surround us, protecting us from any carnal, spiritual attacks of the enemy, Almighty Yah, and that we may be found worthy to be your beloved bride and to be a part of your 144,000 that are sealed and redeemed from the earth, marked with your name in our foreheads, O Yahuwah. We also pray that he may be found worthy to escape the great tribulation, the mark of the beast, and bow down to false gods and false idols. We pray that no plagues, no pestilence, no famine, or disease, or any kind of destruction, be it volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, tornadoes, earthquakes, nuclear bombs, nuclear missiles. We just pray that none of these things come near our dwelling, or Yahuwah, that you would keep us safe, hidden in your ark of safety, under the shadow of your wings in your secret place, Almighty Elohim. And Father, we just love you. We just praise you. And we just pray that your will be done on earth as it is in Shemayim forevermore. In Yahushua Mashiach's name. Baruch atah Yahuwah. Hallelujah. 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 Amen. Amen. All right, family. Until next time, y'all be blessed. Much love. Shalom. Shalom.